Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's another week has passed, and another Friday is upon us. Can you handle your woo? We've got black-eyed kids, we've got high strangeness, and more weirdness than a weird thing. All combined, myself and Scotty Lopez are here to guide you through your woo. How you doing, big man?
I am doing absolutely fantastic, Kev.
We can cut the scary music now.
Yes, the black-eyed children.
Yeah, found a little
with all that.
found a little piece on that today. It's been a while since we've gone there, right?
It's always that's one of those woo topics that just like the EBGBs, you know.
Old school Freaky Friday stuff right there, right?
Yeah.
Pretty deep woo, man.
Yeah.
How you been, dude? How's the past week been? Been out there taking part in all the fun and frolics, you know? Or have you been caught in between staying at home and having to go out and show solidarity with something you've got nothing to do with? It's a kind of weird world we're in right now, right? It's a contradiction, double things going on at once and all that.
I thought we were in a global health pandemic. I thought we were under a, in a global health crisis, and it's very, very interesting how I wasn't aware that was a selective issue.
I know.
You either are or we either are in a global health crisis or we're not.
The really, really intelligent woke bug that's out there. It knows not to go near people that are very virtuous. It doesn't hit the virtue signalers as much as it hurts your ordinary people.
Is that the answer? Is that the cure to the I had no idea. We figured it out, people. That there's not going to be a vaccine. There's no special pill to take. All you have to do is get woke.
Yeah.
Get woke and hit the streets and
get well. Go woke, get well, Scott.
Woke. Yeah, get woke, get well.
Yeah.
And you'll develop an immunity.
Yeah.
Who knew?
I know. It's do you remember what day we went to bed and the page turned into this new chapter, Scott? Can't quite narrow it down. It's it's a bit weird, man.
I think we're in this exponential curve.
Are we back? Have we ended up in the curve that we got kind of obsessed with?
Yes, you know how we love our little exponential curve graph. Me and Kev have developed quite a fondness, a soft spot in our heart for the exponential curve because it applies to so many things. It really does.
One curve fits all, if you may, Scott.
Yes. I think the exponential curve of just absolute insanity continues to accelerate.
I was saying today that 2020 really is like Idiocracy, the Charlie Booker Black Mirror cut. That's what it's like, right? It's like we're living in a weird episode of. There's a bit of Black Mirror to it. There's got to be, but you can't get away from the whole Idiocracy aspect of it either, right?
My little sister.
Whoa.
Flyway Peter, Flyway Paul, Freaky Friday after all.
DJ, you should be. I'm telling you, man, you will go down in the annals of Freaky Friday history as a poet, and you didn't even know it. There you go.
Oh,
like that one, Scott? You like that? You like that one?
Yeah. So my little sister was saying, she's like, 2020 seems like the craziest year, and I was like, yeah. I was like, you're definitely going to have a lot to tell your children in the future about the year 2020 because you're witnessing just massive amounts of just craziness that when you look back in history, I mean, think about that. Think about just 2020 so far described in a historical context in the future, pandemic, mass civil unrest,
It's the
just
year.
everything.
I've even started calling it. You remember we had like Trump derangement syndrome? We've got 2020 derangement syndrome. It's absolutely crazy, dude. You take a look through social media and things, and I must admit, I did have a little hearty laugh to myself today when I seen those pesky boys over on 4chan had been at it again. Oh my word. And when I went to Twitter, I actually thought it was genuine. I thought people had literally been going bald for BLM. But then it only took me 5 minutes to discover, Scott, that, yeah, again, people being trolled so easily. And when they know they're being trolled, instead of going, oh no, we got it wrong, obviously being bald is too late, right? But they double down and they keep going. We don't care if it's a troll. It's good anyway. We're just going to keep going with it. I mean, that's like a 2-year-old, right?
We have another poetic.
Is DJ going to regale us with random lines of poetry?
It got Peter, it got Paul, COVID-19 got them all.
Ah, yes. Well, I'm going to head on over to the chat room over at tfrlive.com. So if you want a shout out, then head on over there and I will give you a very nice shout out. I'll try and pick out the good names here, Scotty, if there's any kicking around. Usually on Freaky, we get the best names turning up. So first up, we got some dude called Kev Baker. Some say he's related to me, Dave Baker. We've got Sophia in there. Bam. Epic Journey, man. I bet you it was epic. Absolutely epic. Cold Brews. Scott, you could really do with one of those right now, right? You were telling me it's rather sticky and bammy where you are.
Whew. Yeah, typical Kansas fashion. We go from one extreme to another. I mean, like spring pretty much like doesn't exist in Kansas. We go from winter to summer. Like we only have like a week of spring. So yeah, it's in the 90s and the heat index is up in the hundreds right now, and it's just oppressively hot.
Dang, dude. So next up, we have got the Rockin' Rio. And then we have our good friend, CJ. And then Paradoxical Anomaly. The Waffle Buddy. Carol is in there. Big shout out to you, Carol. We've got Richie, Lurens, and the Divine Traveller. Ah, I like that name. Let's I think we'll give it to Divine Traveller today. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Without you lot, there would be no Woo Crew, no Freaky Friday, no TFR, and we wouldn't have heaps of stuff to get into tonight. But any other thoughts on the craziness, Scotty, before we move away from the idiocracy, Charlie Booker cut, into, I was going to say weirder stuff. I'm struggling to find weirder woo than what's going on outside in the real world right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, like reality is becoming stranger than fiction in most cases now. So it's like the woo has surrounded us in a way. You know what I mean? Like we're immersed in the woo.
The woo has descended. It dropped like a fog, Scott, just like a fog, a mist. It opened up before us and a portal appeared. And through there, looked like a world where it was saying, you are come, because I want off this rock right now. I'm done.
Yeah, like I said last week, Elon, if you got an extra seat on that next SpaceX launch, I'm down for it. But yeah, man, look, I'm just all of this virtue signaling that's going on right now.
Brutal, man.
It is
celebrities crying, crying with their shame at cracking jokes 20 years ago. And what the heck? I'm watching this guy on Twitter today. I'm thinking, what's wrong with people? Everybody knows what happened with that event is absolutely wrong. Yeah. But the world has now lost its mind. It really has, Scotty.
I can't even play Call of Duty now without being reminded. because, in true virtue signaling fashion, they injected a small little patch or something into Call of Duty where now whenever you go to jump into a game, it greets you with a screen expressing solidarity with BLM. So, look, I play games to get away from reality, to take my mind off all this crap. And now I can't even get away from it when I go to play a game. I mean, come on. This is ridiculous.
Can we just like unleash the Slender Men and then like back them up with crack black-eyed children and then, just throw demonic hordes at them?
Unleash the Slender Man
And the Kraken.
Siren Head and the Murder Hornets. Just hit them with everything.
What happened to them? That was a cool story. I want to go back to the Murder Hornet chapter. It was far better, wasn't it?
See, that's how crazy this exponential curve is. I mean, we're getting bombarded with one crazy thing after another, and it's just piling on. And just when you think things have gotten crazy with one story, here comes the next thing. Here comes, you know what? This makes me, man. What is 2021 going to be like?
Scott, if we've managed to cram this much into not even half the year yet, and I honestly don't know, dude. I really don't. I dread to think what lies in wait in the next 6 months, because that thing's coming back again for round 2. That'll be back in the usual kind of autumny period. We're gonna have something we don't expect. Obviously, the kind of curveball. The way things are going, Scott, at this point, I honestly would not be surprised if the aliens turn up. You know what I mean? While all this is going on, there's a TV show. You would think the whole world is talking about Skinwalker Ranch when, they just nonchalantly say, well, we'll up the game next season, Scott, and we'll get the protocols you require for first contact. Well, I didn't quite see that one coming in a TV show, but hey, it's 2020, right? Should have expected something like this.
That's all I could really. Just a sigh. Just a.
Maybe we'll wake up. We'll wake up and it'll be one giant Mandela effect. Maybe we've fallen asleep during a Freaky Friday when Joe was going into the Nephilim or something. Maybe we're still snoozing, Scott. Maybe we're in a shared reality right now.
Someone in the chat just said that it's very interesting that I mentioned that. That, and they said that they can't get lost in RPGs and video games or fantasy movies anymore, and that everything they're into is nonfiction. And that's cool. That's fine. But there's also like an unhealthy addiction to following all of that stuff, and I was into that as well, to where it was like all you do is focus on headlines, focus on everything that's going on, and you kind of become consumed by it, and after a while it really, really starts to take its toll on you.
Quite addicting.
Yeah,
it is. There's a dopamine feedback loop in there as well. When you're getting your aha moments and you think you're connecting dots that nobody else knows, and it keeps you coming back.
I see what they're saying too. Like it's very hard for me to watch movies and like suspend my disbelief, because I'm a very, I guess you could say, a logical kind of person. To where like, if I'm watching a movie with a bunch of CGI, I'm sitting there wondering like how they did the CGI on a computer. I'm not suspending my disbelief and just letting myself go and watching the movie and enjoying it for what it is. I'm thinking about like all of the technical aspects that like went into making the movie and all of that stuff. It's just how I am, and there's very few movies. There's a couple of movies where I'm able to do that, and the movie has to be done very well. The story has to be told very well.
Oh no, well, the story, yes, because I'm a B movie fan. You tend to get the better stories in there.
Yeah, see, I mean that's the thing. That's the kind of the thing about B movies is that even though the effects and everything might be cheesy and bad, if the writing is very good and the story is done very well, then you're able to kind of overlook that stuff. And um, but yeah, I've always been like a gamer and stuff like that. And when I first, quote unquote, woke up or whatever, I actually kind of stopped doing a lot of that stuff that I used to enjoy doing, the gaming and all of that stuff. And, lately, but, over the past couple of years or so, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back and actually enjoy myself. I'm going to start having fun again. It doesn't mean that I'm going back to sleep or ignoring what's going on around me. The thing is that when you focus on that 24/7 and you like revolve your whole life around it and all of that, it takes its toll on you, and you end up
Consumes you. It does. It does. It consumes you,
yeah,
man.
and you end up becoming a very cynical, unhappy person because of it. So you have to strike a balance, man. We have to decompress as well. We can't focus on this stuff all of the time, and we've done it. You know, we've done it. This is the conversation that me and Kev have had a lot, especially off air too. When we would hit a lot of these topics, that have to do with like
Darkness.
darkness and a lot of the stuff that's going on in the in reality, and you just focus on it 24/7 all of the time. When you stare into the abyss stares back.
You freaky. That's exactly what I was going to say when you had wrapped up, Scotty boy. But it's true. It's true. And it almost, I was having this conversation with somebody last night. You find when you go down these rabbit holes, there's almost a bit of virtue signaling that goes on within this group as well. I've thrown my telly away. I don't watch that TV anymore. It's all programming and that. And I wonder how many people have really thrown that TV away, or are you just doing it for a little bit of, good on you. They'll program you and that, but all of us are sitting with a TV in the house.
Yeah, I mean, you exactly. You see the exact same virtue signaling that goes on in, quote unquote, alternative media, or the crowd that is, quote unquote, awake.
Not
woke, but awake.
No.
Not woke, but awake, right? No, like you said, the people that are like, turn the TV off, it's garbage, it's all programming or whatever. But a lot of them people that are saying that stuff, when they get done talking all that smack on the computer or whatever, they go and they sit down and flip on a TV show that they enjoy or something like that. They're not as virtuous as they want you to believe or whatever. And hey, at least I have the cojones to admit that, hey, yeah, I play video games. So what? If you don't like it, whatever, too bad.
Remember we played Call of Duty? I was absolutely mince at it, but we done it on the stream. Remember it was like a mass exodus of people disgusted at me. How can you call yourself awake if you're playing a game? Ah, well. So be it.
That's how you separate the wheat from the chaff,
Yeah. Why we'll never get that 1 million subs, Scotty. We ain't ever getting there, man. Nah.
Whatever. Yeah, it is what it is. But anyways, yeah. So
shall we have a little bit of woo before the break? Will we warm it up with a little bit of Black Eyed Kids, Scotty? Shall we?
Yes.
Been a while though. When I've seen this, I mean, obviously we go to the mysterious universe once a day at least, but I haven't seen anything on the Black Eyed Kids in a while, and I grabbed this when myself and Scott got together today. So we're all going to be getting into this at the first, getting a first look at it together. So if we come over here, and we will now start to take you into the woo. So get that television off. Here we go, folks. A
Uh,
sinister new side to the black-eyed children. Do you think that's like? Do you think it's actually some kind of protest movement? I'm just having a laugh. In December of last year, I wrote an article here.
hey,
Too
hey,
soon, Scott? Too soon? Probably.
black-eyed children lives matter, man.
I'm telling. Well, what about the dude in England? Did you see the guy in England who obviously was quite confused as to just what he was protesting, and it was BML that he was chanting as he was going along the street. Yeah, good, clever one, that mate. Cheers for that. But anyway, you wouldn't get the black-eyed kids doing that, Scott. No. In December, I wrote an article here at the Mysterious Universe titled "Black-Eyed Children, Occultists, and Demonologists." And may I just stop right there, Scott? Why doesn't that sound familiar? How did we miss this article? I don't remember this one. But then again, December, that feels like 10 years ago now, right? A long, long time ago, December.
Yes.
So in the same article, I said the following. It's intriguing to note that of many of the black-eyed children cases I have on record, one involves two people who were confronted by the black-eyed children in New Orleans in 2006. Why is it intriguing? Well, I'll tell you why. The pair had deep ties to the world of demonology, a world they had embraced some months before the black-eyed children manifested on their doorstep late one evening. Three people, Alabama-based, were heavily involved in the occult long before they saw the three black-eyed children in 2015. I continued as follows in the same article. In light of all this, about 3 months ago, I very quietly began a research project to determine how many people A, have seen the black-eyed children, and B, also have ties to the occult, and to matters relative to various issues including demonology. Somewhat grudgingly, some of the witnesses admitted to me to having connections to the occult. Others acted in what were clearly awkward fashions when I brought the matter up, something which suggested they knew exactly what I was talking about, but had no desire to confirm my suspicion of a supernatural connection to their private lives. I'm seeing a startling picture beginning to develop. It's a story which shows that more than a few of these witnesses to the black-eyed children were not actually chosen at random, after all, as has been long assumed. Now, Scott, let me just stop there because we had always, I don't think we'd even considered that there might be a pattern to the victims, the witnesses of the black-eyed kids, right?
That's a very, very good investigative approach to take towards this, is to not focus on, well, not only focus on just the black-eyed children themselves, but look into some of the background of the victims, or these people who experience the black-eyed children. I don't know if I want to call them a victim necessarily.
Well, I don't know. I think I would feel pretty victimized if two of them turned up on the doorstep.
Okay, maybe we can call them.
Kev's life matters.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's yeah. So I think that this is a very interesting route to take, is to see what's the background of these people who have had these experiences with the black-eyed children, and if you can see a commonality or some kind of a common pattern, then maybe there's something more to this to look into.
There's more to this woo. There is more to this woo, and I think we're going to come back on the other side. We've only got a minute or so before we go to the break, and I think we've left it in a really nice place, Scotty boy. But I think I first heard about the black-eyed kids a number of years ago, and for me, I think it's one of the creepier kind of topics, genres.
I think I first heard about it when you first started talking about it. I think it was around that time when
You
I
remember,
don't, I don't, I don't
remember
know what we
before
need.
the black-eyed kids, Scott, we had the Indigo children. Do you remember all that? There was people claiming there was these special kids, that, and I do think
Star,
some of them were, yeah.
yeah, Star Childs or whatever, Star Children
They'll
or
be
whatever.
growing up a bit more now. I mean, I wonder what they're all getting up to. We might need to take a look at the Indigo children after the break as well. And you're listening to Freaky Friday right here on your number one network, Truth Frequency Radio, www.tfrlive.com. I'm coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Scotty is over there in the state of Kansas. And together, we are the Woo Crew. And we're going to be back after these short, snappy messages, a couple of crazy ads. And we'll come back on the other side and we are going to scare the life out of you. Yes, indeed, because we're going to descend deeper into the darkness, Scott, aren't we? It sounds like we've got it all lined up. We know where we're going. That wouldn't be Freaky Friday, would it? So join us after the break. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, very quick opening segment, Mr. Scott. So I'm going to shove on some tunes. I'm going to go and grab something to drink. And that'll give us a couple of minutes. Yeah, see, look, we're in sync, man. We're entangled, totally, brother. We are entangled. So, folks, thank you all for being here. Leslie, thank you for the PayPal. Thank you, DJ, for the Super Chats. And we will be back after these short and scary little tunes I like to play on a Freaky Friday. There he is. There he is. There he is. We're back. Mr. Lopez. What else you been up to, man?
Well, I was going to mention that AJ in the YouTube chat said that they are he's getting ready for the hurricane party over there in Texas.
He lives right by a swamp, dude. He was showing us on Google Earth the other day. Right by a big massive swamp, and he says, I seen earlier on he was going to jump in the swimming pool because it's like roasting there.
Yeah, if the dew point is in the 70s here in Kansas, I can only imagine what it feels like along the Gulf, because that's where all the moisture that's coming up here is coming from. So I'm going to keep an eye on this tropical storm, because I have a feeling they're kind of underestimating what it could possibly become.
Not good. Wouldn't that just be what America needs right now, you know? Typical 2020 fashion. 2020, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
2020 asteroid impact. Yep.
the waters in the Gulf of Mexico are above. Let's just say it's a lot warmer than what it's supposed to be this time of year. So I think that's going to play a major factor in what this storm actually turns to be.
2020.
Yeah, 2020.
That's just the answer to everything now, right?
Yep. Right now they're saying just a tropical storm, but we'll see. I think it might make hurricane status, if not a little bit. You know,
not gonna be another crazy year for hurricanes, is it, dude?
It's looking like it might be because of these extremely warm waters.
Oh,
so
dearie me.
Could be a very active year. Could be an active year.
Should have guessed, right? I seen there was forest fires up in the Arctic the other day as well. I know. Hey, 2020, right?
Exactly.
Here
That's
we
just
go.
the excuse for everything.
Yep. That there is a hybrid Wookiee, because the opening kind of salvo in that is our good friend Andy. And a big shout out to Spooky Andy. You know, it's not very often, Scott, you can be getting into some ancient woo on the show, looking at these miraculous, wondrous, precision drilled holes from, ancient times. And they kept on saying, yeah, we found sand in them. And we were all in awe at these star holes that I'd never seen before. Our friend Sid from Norway, he messaged me frantically today. He's like, Kev, I can't believe it. I'm in Norway, never heard of these things. And that would be one thing, looking at the star holes, but then Spooky Andy, he takes it to the next degree, doesn't he? He's like, hey, I'll just batter one up with my modern ruby drilling technology that I've got here. He gets on the computer. You know, it was crazy, Scott, watching him going through the stages to recreate what people done thousands of years ago. You got to ask yourself, how the heck did they do it? You know?
I love that Spooky Andy is able to bring that sort of that ability to the table for us. Like he has the modern technology, the modern cutting tools and CNC kind of techniques and things like that. And he used that water cutter. Basically, it accelerates water. What do you say at Mach 2?
80,000 psi, and it comes out at Mach 2.
Yeah, it essentially turns a stream of water into a laser beam, basically that can cut through,
Anything.
cut through, yeah, and it's really cool stuff. So for him to, take these, we see these ancient sort of holes and cuts that were made back a long time ago, and we're like, how did they do it back then? And then he's able to try and recreate it with modern technology. It's just cool. It's just cool that we have somebody that's able to bring that sort of skill set to the table and do that stuff for us.
Super cool, Scott. So what makes the Freaky Friday and KBS shows stand out as your number one para-abnormal shows on any network? And talking of para-abnormal, how about we get back into these creepy, black-eyed kids? You know, I've often shared that the scariest horror movies out there, and I've got the big goosebumps thinking about it, Scott, always involves little children, and I don't know what it is, whether it's that innocence, whether it's the contrast of that innocence with just the pure evil of the black eyes and everything. I don't know what it is, but it puts me all wrong, dude.
I think a lot of it has to do with the contrast, because you think of a child, you think of them as innocent and nice, and then you throw in like the evil and dark into it, and it becomes like this uncanny, uncomfortable thing, right? But also, I'm gonna let's go a little more woo with it. I'm thinking that we're seeing these representations, in stories and in movies and whatever. I think it has to do with maybe this deep rooted sort of maybe a genetic memory or something that we know that has always existed in this form. And so it's something that we conjure up. Well, whenever we're making when somebody's writing a story, or remember when we talked about the creative process, where does that creative spark actually come from, right? Are we pulling this out of the Akashic record, out of the the ether? And if you're seeing black-eyed children being represented so much in stories and movies, are we talking about an entity that is trying to manifest itself through people who may actually believe that they're engaging in some creative process, right? That they're writing a story that they think is original, but are they actually, is something contacting them trying to manifest itself, you know? Or are we talking about a form of, would it be revelation of the method? I don't even know if it'd be revelation of the method. I'm trying to think of the term to use for this, but are they trying to tell us in these movies and stuff that there is an entity or entities out there that are black-eyed children, and they're just kind of showing us in these movies? I don't know. I don't know.
Just listening to you talk there, though, I love hanging out with you. You get my brain going, man. You look at the black-eyed children, and let's look at it another way as well. Let's look at, is there anything out there that we can think would account genetically, perhaps, like you said, genetic there, anything that would account genetically for having all blackened eyes? I was talking about Skinwalker Ranch. Can't shop about Skinwalker Ranch. That gets into UFOs. And like I say, next season, just a bold claim, we're gonna try and get first contact. They're getting the protocols from government. Government are involved, but you think about that whole UFO thing, and I know some people rubbish it. But just open your mind, and what if just one of these claims, one of these experiencers who have been taken on board a craft by aliens is telling the truth? We hear about hybridization programs, Scott. I don't know, but most accounts of those big or small grey fellas, they've got the blackened eyes. And I've heard many a person talking about how they have been in part of one of these hybridization programs and even been taken back up to the ship, for almost to give nurturing to the child that they can't provide. So is that, are we looking at some of the hybrids?
Possibly. I mean, that is definitely something that could be on the table. And okay, so if we're talking about hybrids or something like that, well, then I guess the genetic memory thing would come into play, because if we're talking about, if we're going to go with the ancient alien sort of theory here, and we're talking about, a alien race that came down and cross spliced themselves with the existing hominid species that lived on the planet, then obviously we're going to have some of that genetic code in us, right? I mean, that genetic code is going to carry on, and maybe we're just kind of, when we see these black-eyed children, or we kind of represent them, maybe it's this remnant genetic memory that we know that maybe that's how they looked a long time ago, when the cross hybrid, when the hybridization first began. Maybe they took on more of the traits of the alien species than, say, the existing hominid species on the planet. I don't know. Or, I mean, maybe it has nothing to do with the ancient alien thing. Maybe it has to do with demons and supernatural sort of aspect. And even then, I guess you could still say that there's some kind of a encoded thing in us when it comes to demons and things that we've witnessed in the past, the supernatural and all of that stuff, where we just inherently know, ooh, that's bad, it's not good. And so when you write a story or make a movie and you kind of throw in that black-eyed child, or a creepy kid or something in the movie, it's because it's just deep down
There's
subconsciously we
some
know.
archetype in there, man.
Yeah, there's some archetype. Yes, exactly. That's a good word for it. That's exactly what it is. It's an archetype for something that we've probably witnessed at some point, or we continue to witness, because to this to this present day are having encounters with these black-eyed childrens, and it's like interesting.
And now
But
it's weird because
yeah,
now we're getting to find out that perhaps the people who see them have got a connection with the occult and demonology. This is pretty weird. It says here, well, since December 2019, things have significantly progressed. If progressed is the correct word to use. Now, progressive, it's never a good word to use. In many respects, what I find out is more than a bit disturbing. It provides us a new aspect on the black-eyed children controversy. For years, it was assumed that the black-eyed children targeted their victims purely at random. The feedback I have received since December of last year, however, makes it clear that the black-eyed children have an approach to their targets that most researchers of the phenomenon have no or little awareness of. The agenda specifically involves the black-eyed children descending on those who have pre-existing knowledge of the occult and supernatural, and in a number of cases, when the victim, which is probably an accurate way to describe them, were immersed in reading books on the paranormal. Scotty Lopez, let me pause right there. Whoa, are these people manifesting these things? Are they opening portals and they're little black-eyed things coming home to roost?
it's a possibility. I mean, we talk about tulpas. If you're focusing your intent and your thoughts on that topic, and you're really steeped into it, and you're really focused on it, then that could definitely be a possibility that some of these people may be manifesting this stuff, unintentionally. They might not be trying to purposely do it, but because they're so focused on reading these books, researching this stuff, looking into this stuff, dabbling into the occult kind of things, then possibly they could be manifesting this. So yeah, it's I think that
Wouldn't
is a
that be
definite
the
possibility.
worst case end time scenario, Scott? We often talk about demonic hordes and demons and ooga boogas. Imagine they were children. Imagine they were children. Oh, now that would be the sick twist in it all, right? Dang, dude. That makes it like a whole level of more evil. Doesn't it? I mean, think of it as an adult. You're already knocked kind of for six. It's a child. What the heck? And then this thing's like, oh, it's going pretty tonto. It's got the black eyes, horns going, and it's go time, Scotty.
Somebody needs to warn our buddy Ryan Gable. He might have some BECs ending up at his door.
Yeah, I've not I've messaged Ryan via Skype. He's had some stuff going on, but I noticed on his Facebook he's gonna get moving into a new apartment. He's getting a new studio set up, Scott. So
Nice.
I think we'll have to kidnap Ryan 1 week soon. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie about it. We're just gonna kidnap him via Skype. We're gonna do a digital kidnapping. Does that be diginapping him? Okay, we're gonna diginap Ryan Gable. I've just made up a new term. How cool is that, right?
E-napping.
E-napping. I like it, man. I-napping. I-nap. Oh, don't say that. You'll probably get, that cook character at Apple now. But excellent. We'll call the alarm clock app I-nap.
The thing is I think probably a lot of these people that may have been engaged in this stuff, and then had these experiences, they may have kind of gone into this and got a little over their head. You know what I mean? It's very easy to dabble into things and then kind of lose control of what you're doing, or you don't really know what you're doing, or it's like the whole I would say the whole Ouija board thing, right? Where people dabble in it and they don't really understand what they're doing or how to close the
We had
portal they open.
phone call the other day, Scott. I mean, you didn't know this, you weren't tuned in or anything, but we often talk about the Ouija board a lot. And somebody who I've got so much time and respect for is Granny, who calls into the show on a regular basis. And she was quite angry. She kept it well hidden, Scott. She was very nice and polite. She always is. But she was right, because we often say, it's all right as long as you know what you're doing and you say your prayer and protect yourself. But she came up with a good point. She says, Kev, absolute poppycock. Children shouldn't be going anywhere near these things. It's not any kind of game. It should never be encouraging people to try it in the first place. And I was like, well, when it comes to the kids, you're absolutely right. And I was explaining, I'm more about free will and stuff like that. But what you said there is very, very true. Free will and everything aside, you're opening portals in other dimensions that we're all going to have to deal with the fallout with,
yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, so when you have people that are starting to like study the occult or read these books or, kind of dabble into this stuff, it's very easy for them to get in over their head and not understand what they're actually doing. A lot of research and a lot of understanding has to go into this stuff. And I mean, we can debate whether you should dabble in it to begin with or not, but I would say that if you're going to, you probably need to have a very, very robust amount of knowledge and understand what you're actually doing before you even attempt to engage in it, right? And so, a lot of these people probably, picked up some occult books, who knows if they read some things out of it or tried to, I don't know, do some stuff that, that the book told, trying to, who knows, just engaging in some occult stuff, and they just did it improperly. They don't know how to close the portal. They don't know how to say goodbye or whatever, that you're supposed to do, or to send whatever it is they manifest back. And so they leave that open. They leave that open, and the next thing you know, they got black-eyed children at their front door.
Yes, indeedy. They do. So one such person that Scott talks of is Timothy of Pasadena in California. Got into the subject of the occult and the paranormal back in 2016. Those were simpler times, eh? His encounter with a pair of black-eyed children took place late one night when he was alone in his apartment. And Scott, I hope you're just getting a drink and you're not virtue signaling with that blacked out Skype there. But it says he was BSM, Black Sky Matters. Black Skype even. Yeah.
Black screens matter. Black cams.
You see, we're good. We're getting into it, man. Solidarity, dude. We're trying to fight it. We're going to change the world with our black Skype picture. Anyway, let's get back in here. And it says, his encounter with the black-eyed children took place late one night when he was alone in his apartment. The scenario was typical. Oh, God, I'm getting the creeps already, Scott. Yep. It began with a knock on the front door. Timothy felt weirdly impelled to open the door, which he did. He was confronted by a couple of creepy kids dressed in black hoodies. They had extremely pale skin and, of course, those weird black eyes. They asked for food, but got none. Timothy managed to break free of the feeling of the black-eyed children mind-controlling him. He slammed the door and didn't open it until the morning. Now, by then, the black-eyed children were gone. Here's the intriguing part. As I said, Timothy got into the paranormal and the occult in 2016. Specifically, it was in July of that year. Notably, Timothy's encounter with the black-eyed children happened 2 nights after he finished reading a copy of Kurt Seligman's 1948 book, The Mirror of Magic. Sections in the book include, quote, Casting Out the Fly Demon, Journey to the Underworld, The Origins of Alchemy, The Witch Controversy in English Literature, Magicians of the Middle Ages, and Famous Transmutations. That book will do it, Scott. That looks like an invite to any unruly demonic horde.
Yeah, just a little bit of light occult reading for everyone.
I mean, that sends you to sleep at night, you know. So it says here, similarly, Brenda of New York also had a black-eyed child encounter that had a book connection tied to it. In her case, in January 2013, Brenda had was visited by 2 black-eyed girls. She was also one of the people who responded to my December 2019 article. And she was also someone whose occult connection came before her black-eyed child encounter. Brenda was somewhat cagey when I brought up the extent of her involvement in the subject, but she quickly asked me what I knew of John Dee and Edward Kelly. Now there's a rabbit hole. Brenda admitted that her black-eyed children in confrontation, which intriguingly she could only remember portions of, that's terrifying, occurred in the wake of her having read Richard Cavendish's 1967 book, The Black Arts. Now I could go on and on, but you can see the trend that is developing. Thanks to that article last year, I now have 17 such cases on file, and another book coming, I would imagine. This makes me wonder if the vast majority of all the black-eyed children witnesses have, at some point or another, had a connection to the supernatural that came before the black-eyed children were on the scene. Later this week, I'll expand further on another aspect of all of this, and that of the connection between A, witnesses to the black-eyed children, and B, what we might call secret societies driven by occult-based teachings, all of which came as a result of that December 2019 article. So what do you think of that, Scotty? That's really interesting. That's a new take on it.
Yeah, I like it. I Mr. Nick Redfern, once again, I mean, just elevating the woo to the next level when it comes to the black-eyed children. You know, when it comes to like the subject of tulpas, Slender Man, all of that stuff, I mean, Nick Redfern, he's up there big time when it comes to really digging deep and looking into this stuff.
How long ago did we have him on, Scott? How long ago was that, man?
I was just about to say, man, it was absolutely amazing when we had him on, you know, and he was talking about the Slender Man and all of the tulpa stuff and all of that, and it's just, man, I really hope he you know, he decides to join us again sometime.
I think, yeah, it's time. It's time, Scott. Send another email to Nick. Yes, indeed. So
yeah,
we've got the black-eyed kids. Now, let's say, for the sake of balance and fairness, you know, like you do, we're going to take a look at the other extreme now. And I remember hearing about Indigo children, I would think probably pre-2012. Leading up to 2012, I think, in my mind, it felt like there was a lot of talk around that subject, Scotty. Almost like Star Children here to advance us to the next level, right?
Yeah, I remember like the whole Indigo children thing was a pretty big topic kind of around the time that I first quote unquote woke up. Right. And was kind of looking into a lot of this stuff and was also looking more into a lot of like the woo topics as well. But that was a while
What do you
back.
make of them, man?
And,
What do you make? You think, like, what's your take on them?
I definitely think there's something to
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I definitely believe that there are, I mean, we have like gifted children, obviously, that are born super smart, but I also think that there's like this next level of like children that are on an entirely different level of consciousness, right? That they're operating on a completely different wavelength than like the rest of humanity. And I don't know. We'll get into it whenever we get back.
1 hour down, 2 to go. It's going to be a quick one. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Holy shimoly, Batman. That was quick. Very, very quick.
It was quick.
Yeah. The Indigos, eh? Strange one.
Yeah, like, I don't know. We can talk more whenever we get back on TFR, but I'll still speak a little bit to it here, during the break as well. It makes me wonder, like, so maybe in the past, like say during ancient times or something, if you had an indigo child, would they be considered a prophet?
Would they go on to be like their whole life steered towards becoming the shaman or an elder one day, that type of thing?
That's what I'm saying. That they become that sort of
Conduit, a bridge.
Conduit, bridge. That they're sort of revered and looked upon as among that society as like the one that can communicate.
I've been talking about different forms of contact, Scott, and it's not going to happen the way we think it's going to happen. And what if something like an indigo is a form of contact?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean,
we're talking about in our real world scientists literally uploading consciousness. Now you can rubbish that idea, but the point being, if there's an advanced civilization out there, what's to stop them inserting a consciousness and that point of first contact? We don't even recognize it, dude. I was just a bright kid. Yeah, cool, very good. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if say you're an advanced civilization that is like way older than humanity, and maybe you've evolved to a point to where humans wouldn't even know how to interface with you, right? Like maybe your appearance or lack of appearance, maybe.
Exactly, they might have gone digital,
maybe so bizarre to humanity that like they couldn't just like physically make contact with us without us, like it just be we just couldn't, it just wouldn't register with us. So maybe they would have to like utilize one of our children, one of us, to be a conduit as a bridge in order to make contact, right? So it would be something somewhat familiar for us, right? Okay, we're interfacing with another human, so it makes it easier. But
I think it'd be easier if they just made a human with a big yellow head like I've got. Then it will know it, right? We'll know. Hey, the big yellow heads are here. That's my thinking face, Scott. I like putting this on when you're talking. It helps me to think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yellow thinking faces matter. Say they don't. Go on, say they don't. I dare you. Go.
Monocles matter.
Monocles matter, man. MMM. Love it.
Yeah.
No.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
I wasn't talking to you, you absolute fruit bat. There you go. See, there you go. You say man and he gets triggered. She, sorry. Ma'am.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
You know it. Yeah, that one.
Ma'am.
Yeah. Think that was an indigo child? I doubt it. Hey, hey, hey. Brother Light
Matter.
Indigo.
It's matter.
I'm watching the clock. I'm watching it, Scott. I'm getting ready to beam us back to the mothership. Here we go. Zoom. Oh, there we go. There we go. That was a very, very, very good Wookiee taking us back in today for hour number 2. Scott, come on, man. We only like hang out a couple of times a week, and time flies too fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's time flies when you're having fun, and when there's like a lot of really, really good deep rabbit holes to dive into.
I have got the most chasmically sized rabbit hole that I've started excavating for tomorrow. How would you like to join me? A little earlier than we usually do the Saturday stream, Scott. I enjoyed the earlier one last week, to be honest with you. But Jason, First Paranormal, he is going to come on tomorrow, and he's going to take us through a journey of information and woo that will really sit well alongside. Remember Max, the Templar, when he came on and talked about the little people, the Germanic stuff, the Nordic stuff? Well,
Yes.
tomorrow we're going to get the kind of English version of Pixies, Tommy Knockers, and get ready for this, the real Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
Yeah, so I would love it if you could join us for that one tomorrow.
Oh, definitely. You know what? You want to hear something pretty funny?
Go for
something
it, man. Go.
So, as you know, my mom is a connoisseur of the woo.
Love it.
As
Yep.
your mom. Yep. But there's one woo topic that she does not buy into.
Oh.
She just can't. She just can't get into it, or she. I don't know, but it's the whole fairy thing.
All right.
She's like, that's too much for me. I can't. She's like, I can't do the fairies. I can't do the pixies and
I find
all
a lot of
stuff.
people like that, and I was like that. I remember listening years ago before I had a show, anything. I used to download MP3 files of Coast to Coast, Scott, right? And it was before you had smartphones even. It was pretty clever to be able to get like an MP3 onto your phone. I remember doing it, right? And I'd walk around work. And one day I was utterly fed up, peed off, it was wet, it was miserable. And I thought, well, it's all right, at least I've got my Coast to Coast to listen to, right? So hour 1, Coast to Coast, it was Gumph, it was the news, and get that out of the way. And then hour 2, 3, and 4 was some lunatic coming on to tell their fairy stories. That lasted about 10 minutes. I thought that rubs up against my toxicity. Fairies? What are you talking about? Well, I'll tell you what, Scotty boy, little did I know years later, just the other day on the channel, I done a stream called The Last Leprechaun Whisperer. Yeah, there's only one left in the world. Yep, and he's the custodian of the fairies of Ireland. There's only 200 of them left, dude. And this cat, he's their representative in Big People Land. So I've gone from where your mum was to the far extreme now, where being a little person myself, I find it quite comforting that they're smaller than me running about out there, you know?
I know, and I just told him, I'm like, okay, so you believe in UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, all of this
fairies are too far.
Leprechauns and the fairies. That's just crossing the line. You've crossed the line when you've gone there.
Tana, are you looking at me? You listening to me? Fairy lives matter. Yeah, you see. Stop being sizist.
So the thing is I'm going to make it a point to come on tomorrow, and we're going to get into this topic, and I'll make sure that that mother tunes in.
Well,
maybe we can convert her. We can. Fairy lives matter.
I mean, when Max first approached me, and even you as well, when we got into the world of the little people and those little houses and the wee German things, and I was thinking, where are we going with this? I tell you what, we always say that you have to go to the legends, the lore, and these stories of the little people, they come up time and time and time again. Now, I get it. There's no wee Irish leprechaun jumping about with a shamrock on, the big green hat. He gave that up years ago. He's a bit more modern looking now. I'm only joking, but you know, up where my mum lives, stone's throw away. Mentioned it before, Fairy Glen, and that's right near where Clava Cairns is as well, the magic stone circle, and it makes you wonder, Scotty. You know, if there's ley lines and energy, and we talk about the consciousness of the forest, I don't think it is too far to think that there might be little sprites and entities in there, you know?
Exactly. And that's what I think a lot of these. So I made an interesting point. I'm like, okay, so when people are researching paranormal stuff and you see orbs floating around, isn't that the same as like sprites?
I would say.
I mean, you're talking about an entity of some sort manifesting itself as a small ball of light, you know, moving around. I mean, that kind of is a description of, say, fairies or sprites or something like that. I mean, even fairies, okay, I would say fairies also fall into that class as well, because a lot of people say fairies are like glowing small things that fly around, you know, and I don't know. I think there's something to it.
I do.
And yeah, in the beginning, you know, when I first, I'm like, come on, you know, but the more you look into it, the more you're like, you know, and then remember we talked about um in Alaska, the Anukin.
Yeah.
That falls into the same category as like elves and dwarves or you know, just these small sort of humanoid creatures of some sort that are running around.
We talk about the billions of years of cycles, Scott, right? You know, from the dinosaurs and the size of them. And who knows, in some lost cycle somewhere where the gravity and everything else is well different, and things were just of a smaller nature. We don't know, you know? Most of what we have been told is wrong, we know that. So who knows? Could well be.
I wonder, like, the farther down you go into the earth, right? Let's kind of go with some cavernous earth theory.
Like it. I like when you get into this.
So the farther down you go into the earth, you would think that like some of these cavernous pockets that are located deep under the crust, I would assume that the air pressure would be a lot different, right? Probably a lot higher. Like everything would be pretty compressed. And so I would think that things would probably be smaller the farther down you go.
You would evolve to be smaller anyway, right? Just because of your environment, getting through little nooks and crannies and.
Yeah. You would, you know, if you're living in an area where you have to navigate small spaces, then you're going to evolve.
It's like the fox. I was reading a story about the fox the other day, Scott, and the snout over here in the UK, it's becoming more narrow and pointed so that it can get into bins and rummage better in urban areas. It's the way it rolls, you know?
Yeah. So I mean, an underground species of humanoids that are of a small stature, I don't think is too far out of the realm of possibility. You know, that may have existed once, or maybe even still exist, and it just rarely, very rarely, you know, no pun intended, pops up every once in a while.
Well, our good friend Luna from Down Under was saying that what we're talking about, the Aboriginal people would call nature spirits. That's good enough for me. That'll do me. We'll take that one. So yes, get Tana to tune in tomorrow night. And that will be
Yes. Yeah.
an hour before usually the Freaky Friday time, so 11 in the UK, and that's 6 o'clock.
5 Central.
Yeah, 6 o'clock on the
6
East Coast.
Eastern.
Yeah, 5 Central, and then, yeah, you can do the math accordingly from there, wherever your time zone is. But Jason's been dropping links. He gave me a kind of ballpark idea of where he's going to go, what he's going to link into. And like I say, it might sound on the surface like, what the heck is Baker and Lopez and Jason getting into this time? But when he connects it together, it's going to blow your mind. It really, truly is going to blow your mind. But let's get into some Indigo children, shall we? Yes. So then, strange auras and the mysterious Indigo children. And I haven't heard about Indigos for years, Scott. I'm telling you, I thought about this today because I knew I had this storyline. I'd seen the headline the other day and thought, well, that'll fit, black eyes, whatever. You've seen it. We've done it before the show. I just pulled it up. And when was the last time do you think you heard about like a good Indigo kid story?
I think the last time we actually talked about the Indigo children had to be at least maybe a year or two ago.
Easy,
I think.
easy.
You know, like it's been a while, and so yeah, you know, kind of interesting, kind of synchronistic how we just had a pretty recent article right here.
Yeah, from our
you know,
mysterious universe. Yes, indeed. Anytime they want to pay us for this shameless promotion, we get them, Scott. It'd be very nice. But it's many people, even those who nothing or know nothing about the paranormal or new age beliefs, I think that's what it should say, are probably aware of the concept of auras. They are supposedly extensions of our supernatural energy that surrounds us with a glow that people who are attuned to such things claim they can see. Now, these auras can be different colours depending on one's mood or personality, and this is sometimes referred to as one's life colour. The common colours for adults being blue and violet. Then, in the 1970s, a psychic claimed to have discovered a new colour of aura, which is believed marked someone as a highly evolved soul with amazing mental abilities and, in some cases, paranormal powers. So it began in the mid-1970s when a psychic specialising in reading auras by the name of Nancy Ann Tope began to claim that she was finding more and more children with auras that were indigo in coloration, a colour that she had never seen before. Now, she believed that these indigo children were special souls who had been perfected and reborn on Earth at a time in order to help Earth and start a spiritual evolution in human beings to lead them to enlightenment and explain or expand their consciousness. Now, these indigo children displayed numerous exceptional personality traits and heightened psychic abilities, including telepathy, clairvoyance, and astral projection, as well as a superior intellect and creativity. And Tope predicted that, considering the rate in which she was noticing this new colour of aura, indigo children would become the new norm with just a few generations. And the idea was pretty fringe and obscure at the time, but it was picked up and dusted off by the authors and self-help lecturers Lee Carroll and Jan Tober. And with a little help from a channeled spirit they called Chiron, who wrote a popular book in 1998 called The Indigo Children, The New Kids Have Arrived. And another book followed in the 2000s by a famous psychic, Doreen Virtue, The Care and Feeding of Indigo Children, further propelling it into the mainstream and gained it a good deal of popularity. So you might be wondering just what traits an indigo child has. And it is a bit complicated, as these traits and abilities have undergone changes from author to author in the many books and articles written on them since. But there are a few tendencies that remain fairly standard. One of the main characteristics is their extreme capacity for empathy, sensitivity, curiosity, and creativity, as well as their strong will. Compare that to the youth of today, I dare you. They are also fiercely independent, proud, and highly intelligent, quite often wise beyond their years, leading them to often be described as old souls. Now, they have very good, sometimes photographic memories, are supposedly very intuitive, and are very good at figuring out ways to do things and thinking outside the box. They're often described as having at least some sort of psychic abilities or the potential for it. So, Scotty, what are you thinking so far, man?
Very interesting. It would be very. You know what I wonder? I wonder what Elon Musk's aura looks like.
Good point.
And do you think he would fall into the category of an indigo child?
From what we're reading here, potentially, because you've watched him when he was with Joe Rogan the first time, and he talked about. It was quite hard to watch him talking about his childhood. I think he said it was about 5 or something when he realised that he was different. He couldn't turn that voice off in his head, and I wonder. I do wonder then.
And he's a very strong-willed person.
Mhm.
Like, he doesn't just cower down to what people think he should be. He goes his own way. He thinks outside the box. I would say he checks a lot of the marks of possibly being an indigo child.
Never even thought of that, but you're right, dude. You're right. Indigo children supposedly have a few negative traits as well. They're often described as self-important and self-absorbed. That probably both applies to Elon, like you said a moment ago. They're often rebellious against authority, impatient, easily bored, and easily frustrated. Indigo children are also usually seen as eccentric loners and do not make friends easily, with antisocial tendencies, although they easily bond with animals. They have an inflated sense of self-worth and can often be narcissistic. Their self-sufficiency and clear sense of purpose can also make them very stubborn and headstrong, and they are often resistant to change. A lot of
very
on
interesting.
you go, man.
Well, it's interesting. Like the traits of indigo children also, I would say, match a lot of the people. That there's like 16 personality traits. I forgot the actual name of the, but the traits of indigo children seem to match up with the INTJ personality trait. Now, I'm not saying that every INTJ would be a indigo child, but I would say that probably every indigo child
Gonna be in
would
that
be
group.
an INTJ. Yeah. It's interesting because I've taken the test quite a few times just to see if it was consistent, and I fall into the INTJ personality trait. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things there that kind of check the boxes as far as like my personality trait is concerned. But it's interesting. It's just interesting to see. And once again, I would say quite a few of those even negative traits would also probably apply to Elon Musk as well.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. It says,
interesting.
No, very interesting, dude. Their self-sufficiency and clear sense of purpose can also make them stubborn and headstrong, and they are often resistant to change. A lot of these negative aspects are said to be the direct side effects of their gifts in other areas. For instance, they are often frustrated and annoyed when other normal people can't keep up with their sharp minds and different ways of thinking, which can also make them seem arrogant. Dang, I think we found an indigo, Scott. Authority bothers them because they often truly believe they have a better way of doing things, and their unconventional views of how things work alienate them from others who are not on the same page.
I'm telling you, like,
Indigo
are we
Musk.
not just like reading a pretty much a personality bio of Musk? Like, if you were just to take Indigo completely out of this and be like, here is the personality trait of Elon Musk, you'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah, makes sense, yes.
I mean, you know me, I'm like fanboy number one, and I am recognizing
I'm
a
just
lot of this.
yeah, and I think that
Anne's kicking coffee over. It's okay. It's okay. I'll probably get the shoe for it. It'll be my fault somehow. Why? Because I'm a man. But hey, it's okay.
But no, I mean, I'm just using Musk as an example because I think he's the kind of the glaring example of it that we see in our current time right now. But I would say this applies to pretty much most genius level savants.
I was going to
would say this,
does this really encapsulate a high percentage of your tech gurus?
a possibility. It's possible. Maybe not all, but I mean, this would probably include your Teslas and yeah, Tesla would probably fall into this category as well. Probably an Indigo child. And you notice that most of these like genius level savants, they had a different way of doing things, which basically kind of alienated them in their schooling, which is why you always hear that, oh, they had bad marks in school, they didn't do good in school, because they were thinking in a completely different way. They were thinking completely outside the box, and they weren't doing things to the standard that was being taught. And so once they got out of school,
think of that, because Musk has set up his own school that was going to be just for his own kids to start with. But then all the parents in the area, they turned around and went, hang on a minute, like, can you start that as a school? Because what he was doing was he was encouraging the children to go into what they are good at. Like Scott was saying there, not everyone's the same. We're not all cookie cuttered. We're not all same, cut from the same cloth. So Scotty, very technically, analytically minded, maybe hands-on fixing the computers. Elon Musk would spot him at a young age and give him like all the stuff he needs to just go and play about with computer stuff. And then there's other people who are more nuts and bolts, algebra, calculus. Give them books. They love that. They equally love it, And
and that's something that I've been saying for years. And I think that, that education should focus on the strengths of whatever the person is interested in.
Yeah.
And you don't cookie cutter everybody and like force the same thing on everyone, because everyone's different. Everyone's good at different things, and so you should be trying to focus on what they're good at. And actually, that's how schooling used to be back in the day. When you had just like a teacher teaching one kid, these super small kind of classrooms, and they kind of focused on what they could the talents that they could spot in that child, and they focused on that. Like if the kid was good at reading and literature, then they would kind of steer them towards the direction of, oh, hey, maybe you should start writing, maybe you should focus on this more. If the kid was good at mathematics, maybe you should focus on math, and wasn't that the whole point of like gifted classes as well, where they could spot that the child was gifted in this certain area and focus on that thing? And it's absolutely ridiculous now, and it's just frustrating because now they're saying that gifted classes are
well, it's not fair on Jilly and Johnny that aren't gifted.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and
you
so
have
now
to
they're
stunt
shutting
somebody's intelligence, their natural spark, just because it might offend somebody that isn't as good. This is what's wrong with the world.
Yeah, and so now, exactly like you're saying, and now they're preventing these kids who may have this savant level ability from actually going and you know, exploring that realm and learning because, well, you know, the woke crowd feels that, you know, a little Timmy who might not be as smart as little Jimmy, you know, it's going to hurt his feelings. And so now they're shutting down these gifted classes. You know, it's sad, but I
We're
know it kind of
just,
got off topic.
we're not even, when you talk about that though, Scott, I was having this conversation last night with somebody actually. And I was saying, obviously the world's different from when I went through school to what my son went through school. But I look at my son and that generation there, and they've gone through an entirely different schooling system. They've gone through this kind of, there are no winners and losers. You know, you don't get rewarded for being good. In fact, like Scott was saying there, you actually get kind of pulled back to the lowest denominator in the class. And now we're starting to see the product of that and what's going on around the world. You want to know why the world's going crazy? I might be playing a little bit into it, you know, but we'll come back on the other side. More Indigo children, more woo than you can shake a stick at. Why? Because we're Freaky Friday. That's why. We'll be right back. Yes, Mr. Scott. Very deep and meaningful beard scratching conversations today.
Yes. Very,
I
very
need to nip to the toilet. So do you want to regale the audience, or would you like to get yourself a drink?
I'm gonna get myself a drink.
Yes, I will shove on some. I won't put on the scary tunes this time to scare me. Where are we? Where are we? Yes, we'll put on some happy fun time music. There we go. We'll be back in a second, folks. Don't go anywhere. Oh, not that one, not that one, not that one. Oh, wow. I thought the Wookiee had gone on strike there. Wookiees matter too. He's feeling awfully left out as the Wookiee. How you doing, Scotty? Second half of Freaky Friday already, man.
Wow.
I've seen this in the
Crazy.
chat room. Musk, you know how Musk, it triggers a bajillion conversations, and Epic over in the chat room. He says, I believe I have found evidence that Musk, Teal, Johnson, Brennan, Page were all in the Lewis and Frederick Terman's generational studies of genius, longitudinal study of gifted children. They all went to Stanford and dropped out of their PhD programs. You guys are going to love this. Do you know who the first gifted child in the program was? Betty Ford Aquino. Ah, Michael Aquino's mother. Now, that name's quite interesting. And if I remember rightly, Michael Aquino, was he not like some crazy Satanist in the army or something, Scott?
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to check up, man. Let me check that out.
Yeah, I'm not too versed on who
I'm
he
sure.
is, so.
Yep, there he is. Yep. Phew, thank goodness for that, dude. This is like, I'm pretty sure this guy was staring at goats and doing naughty in the army. But there he is there, yeah. And it says, born in 1946, Michael Aquino was a military intelligence officer specializing in psychological warfare. In 1969, he joined Anton LaVey's Church of Satan and rose rapidly through the group's ranks. Thank you for that, Epic. Oh, yeah, pretty
Very
interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, the plot thickens. The plot thickens, eh? Let's get back to our Indigo, shall we, Scotty? If I can find them here. Where did you go, old Indigo? There we go. Right then. So, the whole concept of Indigo children has really taken off in the mainstream and in popular culture, with numerous books, articles, and even films made about the phenomenon. Now, it is common for celebrities to claim that they have an Indigo child, or claim to be one themselves. Now then, let me think about that then, Scott. Hypothetically, if there are these special children out there, and they've been coming in from, say, the 70s, like we're kind of learning here, or we're getting put to us here, do you think maybe some of them are targeted and taken into, be it Hollywood, be it programs, mind control? You don't really want a generation of really open new thinkers coming up, right?
Oh, definitely. I was just about to say that, obviously the gifts that these children have would be useful for people, right? To people. And so they would be targeted to be put into a lot of these programs, in order for them to exploit the gifts that they have. Especially when it comes to telepathy and clairvoyance and astral projection and stuff along that lines. You would probably think, say, when the CIA was doing a lot of their remote viewing research, or the remote viewing program, I should say, not research. They had an entire program with remote viewers.
I don't think that went away. I think it still goes.
No, it's still happening. It's
different
just under
name.
a different name.
Exactly.
Yeah, different name. But those people that were chosen to be part of that program were probably Indigo children. They recognized the traits, when they were young, and they said, yes, we need to groom this child and get them into this program, in order to exploit the gifts that they have, these telepathic and whatever gifts. So yeah, I mean, that wouldn't surprise me at all that if they're that maybe people in Hollywood, or we talk about, was it Project Monarch and all of that stuff, that they would be looking for these kind of children, right? And it's not their fault. It's just they were brought in, and they were exploited.
Think about it as well, Scott. 1970s, definitely a far simpler time. I'm a 76er myself, so I can't remember the 70s, obviously, but 80s onwards, I remember that. And you think about it, dude. Think about the changes that are that have taken place since then. The amount of shots that we get have gone up, from birth. The food that we eat, the water that we drink, the air that we breathe. You could make an argument that some of that, if you were going full conspiratorial, has been almost to suppress, keep down the introduction of these indigos. And then furthermore, if I was going really conspiratorial, Scott, I would start setting up DNA companies. And I would tell him, why don't you come and find out, like, if you were related to Vlad the Impaler? But in reality, they may be looking for a marker. For all we know, it might be a marker. It might be a gene sequence that these kids have. I don't know. I'm just going full Freaky Friday wooing with it, man.
You think this would tie into, like, the people who have, was it RH negative?
Why not? Why not? That's a weird one. A really weird one.
It'd be interesting to see if there's a correlation between indigo children and RH negative blood type as well.
Look at us doing scientific studies on the woo, eh? Well, Nick Redfern, he's fairly inspired us today as Mad Redfern, hasn't he?
Yes. Yes. But nah, I mean, the thing is, though, is that I think these indigo children have always existed. It's just during the 70s, we had this person who, what was he? Is she a psychic or not psychic, but she
sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, something like she could read auras.
Yep.
But she was able to kind of recognize that there was this trait, that there was like a marker in the auras that kind of picked these people out. And but no, I think that they've always existed. And like you said, these were the people that, now we have the, we were talking about them being groomed to be in these programs or whatever, but like you said, back in the day, maybe they were groomed to be the shaman of the tribe, to be the spiritual guru.
Last week, Scott, we were talking on the show, Freaky Friday went real deep, and we started getting into like stones connected to Palladians and stuff like that. Real deep woo, right? But if we look at that story, at the heart of it, it talks about how 50,000 beings set out from the Pallades to come here, do their genetic manipulation, and really turn this into some kind of, by the sounds of it, some are really good, and it'd been in the hands of something really bad up until that point. But the reason I bring that up is because there's a part of that story that says that whatever's going on this planet here, it's almost as if souls come in here for a reason. And you have to wonder then if these indigos are the souls maybe of the descendants of these entities, these beings from Andromeda, the Pallades. And the story says it wasn't just Palladians. This was like a coalition of different species, Scott. 50,000 of them come here. Big cataclysm, big battle. Not many of them survive. But the essence of the story, this place where even the negative ETs who had held the place, they could get a chance to come in here, get a meat suit, put themselves right. And at the same time, could we have however many X thousand advanced, almost ascended super souls coming in at any one time? It's weird, right?
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. I mean, that's definitely
It's in there.
it's
When we're writing my sci-fi book, it's
yeah,
on the table.
definitely on the table, man. Definitely on the table. And like I said, uh, we look at like the stories of the Buddha, or a lot of these, like, like the Buddha was probably an indigo child, and then he went into deep meditation and focus for I don't really know like the whole story of the Buddha and like exact, but from what I understand, he went into this deep meditation for like weeks and then just went boof, just blipped out.
Yeah, he was a
Just
fat
literally,
royal kid that went away and done what you're talking about there, man. He got fed up with the
yeah.
trappings of royalty, turned his back on that, went and sat in a field, and like you said, he just bloop, phased out.
I would say that's probably has a lot of the same markers of an indigo child. He went against the grain. He was tired of the status quo. Didn't identify much with the being royal and all of that, and went out and did his own thing and blipped off to another dimension, man.
Wouldn't that be nice right about now, Scott? Wouldn't it?
Yeah, I kind of feel like I should just go in the field in the back behind my house and see if I can pull a Buddha.
See, my big Aboriginal pal Donnie says I'm on it. You know it, Kev. I'm telling him there's a weird part of me, Scott, that remembers a very ancient story about a genetic manipulation experiment. It's freaking me out, dude. That's for another show altogether. I'm going to save that for when I get the author of the book on. Profound, man. It's weird woo going on with me, Scott.
We need to find like a sound clip of the didgeridoo, and then every time we start talking about it, we just need to kind of like play.
Can't beat the didgeridoo, man. Telling you, dude. That's like, that's the berries. Here we go. And we'll get back in the story before I start getting all romanticizing about a land I've never been to, Who knows where that... See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. What, always loved that Australia thing. I thought it was because of Kylie Minogue and Danny Minogue and Neighbours, but really, I think there's a part of my DNA's been going, Baker, come on. Get past that toxic manliness that you're always getting into and look at the bigger picture. Why is Australia important to you? Why a country that really is the furthest away from me? It's almost the antipodal point on the earth. I couldn't get any further away from Australia. So why? Why does that hold the same kind of pull, an equal pull to the pyramids, to Göbekli Tepe? Now that's weirdness, Scott. Australia's cool, kangaroos, best animals on the planet, right? But it shouldn't be enough to like put it up there with the pyramids unless there's a genetic memory.
Exactly.
Who knows, dude? You know me, I'm not new agey in any way, shape, or form. You've never heard me talking about like past life memories back to ancient times and stuff. It's not happening. Telling you, it's weird. We're living in a weird part of the Matrix. 2020. Telling you, 2020 derangement syndrome. So it says here, blah, 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 blah. The whole concept of indigo children is really taken off in the mainstream. Common with celebrities, we got to that bit. Despite there being no real evidence of indigo children actually existing, the notion has become such a popular New Age belief that it's sometimes labelled as being almost like a religious movement. But of course, there is much skepticism in the idea of spiritually awakened people that are presented as the next step of human evolution. So one of the most popular ideas is this is simply a misdiagnosis of mental disability, such as attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, or autism. After all, back when the term indigo child was first coined, there was very little understanding of these disorders. And as the movement grew, it would be seen by the most parents as better to view their child as a special chosen one with magical powers rather than suffering from a disability and a neurobiological condition. And I find that utterly disgusting how he's actually described that. They are not suffering a disorder. They are gifted and special. That's all right. That's what I like off then. Belief in the indigo child phenomenon could even be making things worse, since making this claim robs the kid of proper diagnosis and medication, leaving them without the help they really need and raised with a false sense of security. Now, are these people really just misunderstood people with behavioural defects that have all been marked as something more? Or are indigo children actually real? Either way, it's a concept that is really caught on and will likely be discussed for some time to come. You know, just because we've got a scale now where you put children on this autism scale, it doesn't mean we understand it any better. And
Exactly.
you know what I'm saying, Scott?
And,
Just because we've got
just
because we've got names for it doesn't mean, like, I don't know.
Yeah, and of course, he was just playing devil's advocate. in that
Yeah, of
last
course,
part,
of course.
and explaining, why people would, the other side of criticizing.
Let me at him.
But I would say, to those who try to poo-poo the whole indigo child thing and just say, oh, well, it's just a kid with ADHD or autism or something like that. I think that a lot of these kids who are diagnosed with that or whatever, first of all, most genius level savants would be classified as having autism, right? Or some kind of a neurological disorder, and would end up being put on medication, right? Like, you can make a case that Elon Musk is on the spectrum.
I've always said that.
Right?
Definite.
That a lot of his quirks and social kind of awkwardness and all of that stuff, it totally syncs up and lines up with somebody who would be on the autism spectrum. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that the dude is an absolute genius.
That's why I wouldn't really necessarily call it a disability,
No, not really. It's just he's thinking in a different way. His mind, his neurons are firing in a completely different way than your average person. The same goes for, like, Nikola Tesla, right? He had a lot of these, I'm sure when he was a child or just in general, if you were to teleport Nikola Tesla from back then to today, and he saw a doctor or whatever, they would be like, oh, you have autism. Or they would say, he'd be on the spectrum, right? And they would prescribe him medications and all of that stuff, because he had a bunch of kind of strange OCD quirks. Wouldn't he walk around a building 3 times before he would go into it?
Obsessed, like beyond superstitious.
Yes.
And Scott, would you say that the treatment, some of the medication for some of the levels of autism, do you think that dampens down and almost kills off that genius spark?
I totally do.
Yeah.
I've said this for a long time that I might go full conspiratorial here. Since
let's do it. Go.
I think, okay, so there's like different levels of autism, right? Now, there's like extremely severe levels of autism where there's no doubt that the person is suffering and is suffering a very severe neurological issue. I'm talking about the ones where, like, the kids are harming themselves and like punching themselves and all of that stuff. And obviously you have to try to do something, anything to stop that, whether it be medication or, I get it. There's different levels, but I think these levels in the spectrum where you're talking about extremely gifted children that are genius level in certain things, but are socially kind of awkward and have these strange quirks, I think that once they're put on medication, that whole genius level part is suppressed.
Mhm.
And I'm going to go full conspiratorial here and say that they know that. And so I'm talking about kind of a certain subset of people on the autism spectrum here, not everybody. And I don't even know if I would consider it autism, really. I think that that's a label they tagged onto it in order for them to say, oh, that kid has a problem. We need to medicate them, and then that suppresses all of that. It stunts their intellect and their ability to fully utilize the gifts that they have. And I think that is possibly an agenda that they have. That could be what we're seeing here is probably them kind of finding these star children and keeping them from utilizing their abilities, let's say, to elevate,
fulfilling their potential,
Yeah, you're cutting them off because they know that these individuals will eventually have the ability to raise the consciousness of humanity, and they don't want that. They don't want these.
Isn't it the movie Avatar, Scott, that we see the consciousness of humans being inserted into avatars, but they're like the things that live on that planet anyway, right? It's almost like when I was saying that these souls may be kind of getting sent here, inserted into the old meat suits to kick around on Earth for a while. I mean, that's Avatar in reverse, right?
Hmm.
It is really, though. I mean, when they're down on that planet, that they insert their consciousness into their avatar, and I mean, isn't that almost like, wouldn't we be the avatars for the consciousness coming in here? Some of these indigos.
Wouldn't that suck to go through that whole process of having your consciousness from another planet inserted into
that's when that's when the other end of the experiment goes, well, another 10,000 years then.
Well, what would suck is if you're like, all right, okay, if you're sitting on this other planet and you're like, all right, I'm going to inject my consciousness into the.
I'm going to sort that place.
Yeah, and then you do it, and you end up getting force-fed medication, and you're in a dumbed down stupor for the rest of your existence on this planet.
This is what I'm talking about. Would we even recognize contact? We wouldn't even recognize if it came in our own shape and form, Scott. What hope have we got, man?
Yeah, and so we talk about that certain that subset of the autism spectrum, quote unquote. I think it also applies to like children that they also say have ADHD. I don't know. They'd say, oh, they daydream too much, or they're too restless and all of that. It's like, well, they probably they need to learn a different way. They do things in a different way, As far as I'm concerned, ADHD was just called being a kid. And
I'm with you. What I mean? Yeah, exactly. Did you bit highly strung, but hyperactive, what kids are.
Why do you think they used to have nap time in school? I mean, they let the kids run around. What recess was for, let them get their energy out. And as we've seen that they've cut recess time down, and now like a lot of they're starting to realize, oh, maybe we should actually let kids go out and play more and extend recess time. It's like, well, duh, obviously you got to let them get their energy out. How do you expect a kid to how do you expect a kid to just sit there perfectly for how many hours? Isn't
that how they want them in school now? It's schools are getting even weirder when you add in all of the new measures that'll be implemented when they open back up again on the other side of the summer. It's a weird world, dude. And if I tell you, if we're only seeing what's coming home to roost now from the previous generation, what happens when the 2020 kids graduate? The class of 2020, man. Ooh.
I honestly think, I think one of the good things that came out of this whole lockdown situation was the fact that kids could learn from home.
Yeah. There's definitely been good things come out of it. Absolutely, man.
Yeah, like I've always thought that like online schooling and stuff like that should just always have been an option.
And the break has decided. We've had enough. 2 hours down, 1 hour to go. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. How pescally rude of that intro music to step all over you, Mr. Lopez. It was wrong. Very wrong. Now, I'll let you finish that and I will look for our next dose of woo, right?
Nice. I think the whole online learning thing, just in general, has been really, really good. First of all, it takes them out of that environment. Like I've always thought of school as like being a government indoctrination center, and I'm sure like the lesson plans or whatever that they're learning online still, whatever. But the thing is that it takes them out of that kind of the
boot
thing
camp.
Yeah, it's to me it's like you're going into like prison boot camp in a way, and it's also with all of the crap that like kids got to deal with these days. I think like removing them from that environment to where maybe they wouldn't be bullied, or something like that, or deal with a lot of like the crap that they might have to deal with at school, and just let them learn at their own pace at home is just a lot more healthy for them mentally. Takes a lot of like the social pressure off of them, and so I think that that's a really good thing as well. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about the curriculum and stuff. Probably still sucks because they're learning whatever is being force fed to them.
2 + 2 = 5, and don't you dare say it doesn't, Scott.
Yeah, they've rolled back the whole Common Core stuff here.
I was showing a friend last night how they do mathematics over in Japan, and if you've never checked it out, folks, you really need to. They do it a totally different way than you can imagine. They do it very pictorially. They use lines and it's counting intersections, but point being, it's the same end result, but the path that the Japanese take children to get there, it's idiot proof. It truly is. You don't need to be a genius to count how many times a line intersects with another line. You don't have to do math in your head. It's there. It's a different way of doing it altogether, Scott. It's absolutely, it's pretty tremendous.
More visual sort of aspect to it. And it's interesting, and I know we're about to come back here, but it's like, after I got out of high school, like I learned more on my own than I actually did in school. Like, because oh
no, it didn't come through the gate, did it?
Yes, it did.
No, wow, and dearie me. Oh, Scott.
See, this is why you need that RTX voice, Kev.
I've got the RTX card as well. I'm an idiot, right?
That AI would have just scrubbed that. It would have never existed. The AI would have handled the situation.
I thought the gate had it, dude. I thought, Mon Julio is far away from the mic. I'll be all right, Who knew somebody my size could produce something quite as demonic? Yes. ZX, exactly. I'm squeaking. Yes, it was Anne. I'll take the blame. Yes.
It was just the chair. You need to oil it, Kev. It
Exactly,
was just,
Scott. Yeah, it's just a dodgy chair. It's all good. Here we go. Yes, indeedy, we're back. We're live. And luckily you weren't with us during the break. There was a distinctive outbreak of wind during the break. And I don't know, Scott, it was getting a bit gusty in here, man.
yeah. I'll send you some WD-40 so you can oil that squeaky chair, because that's what it was. It was a squeaky chair, Kev.
Hypothetically, I am very toxic. I'm exceedingly toxic tonight. What happens when you have chili con carne? I had chili the other day, dude. You see, it's this Mexican thing. I like my Mexican food, man. Oh, dude. Taco Bells. I could live in Taco Bells. And Anne makes a wicked homemade chili. But obviously, it's not going to be as good as your mum's, right? I need to get to America for that chili alone.
You need to get to America, because if you think Taco Bell is Mexican,
Scott, in Glasgow, it's as close as we're getting.
I know, but it makes me feel feel sad for Kev, because
I know
we've got some Mexican restaurants here, authentic.
Well, I must admit, we've got a Mexican that we do go to. It's like a proper one, and don't get me wrong, it's only if it's been a very flush month we would ever get a takeout from there. But Scott, I swear to you, the curry that comes out, not the curry, the chili that comes out of there, I have never tasted anything quite as delicious as this in my whole life. And I only think to myself, you know, imagine what it must be like to get over there to like Mexico and get right in about it. You know, one thing eating Mexican food in Glasgow, but I think I can see myself in Tijuana eating some good stuff, man.
Have you ever had tamales?
Nope.
Oh my God.
What's those little, is it Cheetos? What's the little, they're like little kind of sugary little sticks. Cheetos? Right.
Churros, I think is what they're called.
I think so, maybe, yeah. Oh, them and like chocolate sauce, dude. Oh my word.
See, you've got to have sopapillas.
You see, I need tequila as well, man. I'm making myself really hungry here. Do you know what?
Sopapillas are this kind of fluffy. It's fried, and it's like a bread that gets like air pockets in it, and then it's coated in cinnamon and sugar. And what you do is you open up the kind of air bubbles that form when you fry it, and you pour honey in it.
Oh man, honey from a murder hornet. Oh, dude, that'd be awesome.
People in the chat, if you've ever had sopapillas, you'll know. They'll give you the lowdown. But
I like that. John in the chat room said Kev had his own SpaceX liftoff. That was the power of several Merlins. I give you that.
I was wondering. You started leaning. I was wondering if the rocket blast, was going off course. If you're.
Sorry, I pulled it back, man. Musk's got me. He's got me. He's got my back, dude. But did you see his rocket launch just the other day, Scott? Not the one with the astronauts, but the actual more Starlink satellites going up there. I don't think they're switched on yet, but that's the next kind of batch in the constellation going up there. I tell you, dude, it's going to look like disco lights up in that sky sometime soon, right?
Dude, we're going to be looking up, and it's just going to be like just twinkling with all kinds of craziness flying by. And you got to wonder, like, are we just like going to completely stop having UFO videos because like the sky is so active that nobody's going to even be able to distinguish if they're looking at a UFO or a Starlink flying by or anything like that?
Even major telescopes are starting to worry, Scott, because there's going to be that many things that we're not going to be able to tell if one thing gets in front of the camera. It could skew our results, our images, whatever they're doing. So I don't know. It's interesting, right? Maybe we'll end up like the rings of Saturn. You know what I'm saying? We'll have rings around the planet. There'll be that much stuff up there. Is it rings or is it bars? on our prison planet, Scott.
Mm.
Yes,
It'd
indeed.
be like a ring of space junk floating around our planet.
And that's what they say. That's what they say the space fence is for. But I beg to differ. And let's not get into Skyborg. I mean, that's literally the name of the AI that's going to be running the autonomous, like, drones. Skyborg.
See, yeah, you've mentioned that before, and I never looked at what is up with that. That
I'll bring up a quick one here. And when I first seen it, I thought it was like a play on words kind of thing, but it's not. And I'll take you over here, and this is just one article. More than one company could get cash to build Air Force's AI-equipped Skyborg drone. Yeah, and right now there's a human actually training it. Because eventually, your pilot in Top Cat kind of, Top Gun fighter jets, they're going to be more information warriors, while the dogfights and the maneuverability and talking to every other piece of autonomous kit on the battlefield will be taken care of by Skyborg.
Oh wow, I mean,
Reassuring, huh?
That is so effing Skynet right there.
Isn't it? It really is, though.
All they did was like, let's just take the net off the end for PR purposes and change it to Borg because, well, that just sounds a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, the Borg out of Star Trek. I mean, come on, wow. So just here it says the Air Force has kicked off a competition for one of its highly anticipated tech programs, a drone known as Skyborg, that will use artificial intelligence to make decisions in battle. But when you actually start to read more into it, here it is here. The Air Force envisions Skyborg as a family of drones. And when you get further into it, you find, like I say, it's literally training. It's watching the test flights and the kind of dogfights that they do. Top Gun, remember that movie? Yeah, that are looking at the flight data from bajillions of flights. And what does AI do, Scott? It looks at patterns and it'll learn that and it'll get better and better. It'll eventually do maneuvers that the pilot will be sitting going, I have no idea where that came from. You know what I mean?
It makes sense though. Like, so when we talk about some of these like recent UFO sightings.
The Tic Tac.
The Tic Tac.
The Gimbal. A crap name. Gimbal.
But we see them talking about how these aircraft are doing maneuvers that no pilot could pull off, right? Because the G-forces would be too extreme or that it would kill them or whatever. But that wouldn't be the case if you had an AI unmanned vehicle pulling these maneuvers.
No
right?
need for inertia dampeners in there, Scott.
Yeah, exactly. And so here's the thing, is this whole disclosure thing that's being pushed, and that all of a sudden the mainstream and the government's on board with.
And Scott, think about it, right? In 7 episodes or 8 episodes of Skinwalker, you've seen the start of what could have been a cattle mutilation with a UFO over it. You've got UFOs responding to rockets going off. You've got focusing of ionizing radiation either above or below Skinwalker. Excuse me. And then they finished season 1 by saying, well, we need to get the protocols from government about first contact. Because in season 2, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get contact on the go. Scott, this is a TV show. And they're just like I say, nonchalantly, okay, then season 2 we'll go and get contact. What's changed from when Bigelow had the ranch and you locked up all of the good stuff, and now we're all of a sudden going to watch you going for contact next year? Well, that moved forward quickly.
I mean, it's a little strange, and It does. It makes me wonder if a lot of this stuff is cover for a lot of the Black Project clandestine stuff that's going on. And so they're just like, oh, okay, disclosure. Hey, we really don't know what's going on. These vehicles are pulling radical maneuvers that we've never seen before. And we're investigating it as well. And we're taking this very seriously when it's actually their tech, right? I bet a lot of the stuff is this Skyborg AI technology being utilized and tested, and like you said, it's analyzing like dogfight patterns and fighting maneuvers and all of this stuff, and it's improving upon it and just like busting these radical maneuvers that a pilot can't do. Think about that. I mean, that provides you an enormous edge in air superiority where if you go to war with another country and they're still having to rely on pilots, human pilots in the cockpit of a plane versus a vehicle that is piloted by AI, who's going to win in that situation? Well, obviously the AI is going to win because first of all, you don't have to worry about putting a pilot in danger. You lose the plane, whatever. It was an autonomous vehicle that had no human on board. So just right off the bat, that would make sense just from a
synthetic life matters.
Oh yeah, AI lives matter. I'm sorry, but you don't lose pilots, so there's that. Then there's the just advantage in maneuverability because once again, no pilot. You don't have to worry about the pilot passing out from G-forces and any of that stuff. So you can actually develop a vehicle that has a lot more thrust, a lot more G's. Maybe it doesn't even have to be designed around a cockpit because there's no cockpit. So the actual design and flight characteristics can be completely radically different because you're not building a plane around a person. You're just building a vehicle that essentially is aerodynamic in any way and in the most efficient way possible. So it don't even have to look like a traditional aircraft,
Well, I've got the awesome add-on to give to the ground troops that will be supporting Skyborg, right? And it could also double up as the ultimate end to all of the problems that people are protesting about in the world right now. We are, for whatever reason, obsessed with color. And some people will never get over being horrible people. They just won't. That's just one of the flaws that some people have. But what if I told you I think I might have a solution to it all? How about if we all get genetically modified and we become invisible? I'm not even making this up. This comes from futurism, folks. That scientists gene hack human cells to turn invisible. Now, okay, I kind of played with it. I'm not talking about, you're going to get the invisible man walking down the street anytime soon. But Scott, take a listen to this, right? Active camo. By tinkering with the genetics of human cells, a team of scientists gave them the ability to camouflage. To do so, they took a page out of the Squid's playbook, because we've always done well when we've copied a squid, Scott. New Atlas reports. I mean, I've looked at a squid many times and thought, oh, to be the squid. Specifically, they engineered the human cells to produce a squid protein known as reflectin, which scatters light to create a sense of transparency or iridescence. And the minute you say that you specifically engineered human cells to produce squid protein, they no longer are human cells, in my opinion. I'm just saying. But not only is it bizarre, is it a bizarre party trick, but figuring out how to gene hack specific traits into human cells gives scientists a new avenue to explore how the underlying genetics actually work. It would be fascinating to see this research. Well, you wouldn't see it. It'd be invisible, right? Ha ha. Pave the way to gene-hacked humans with invisibility powers. Wouldn't that be great? But sadly, that's not what the research is about. Rather, the University of California, Irvine, biomolecular engineers behind the study think that their gene hacking technique could give rise to new light scattering materials, according to the research published in the Nature Communications. Or even more broadly, the research suggests that scientists investigating other genetic traits could mimic their methodology, presenting a means to use human cells as a sort of bioengineering sandbox. Oh, that ain't going to go wrong, Scott.
Yeah, let's just
Let's just throw in a punch of DNA and let's see what takes shape, right?
yeah, let's just crack it all open and
Hey, you gotta break a few eggs to make an omelette, Scotty. It's okay, man. It's okay. But definitely a lot of genetic manipulation going on, Scotty. The sandbox that proves useful as the Irvine team managed to get human cells to fully integrate the structures producing the reflecting proteins. Basically, the gene hack fully took hold. Through quantitative phasic microscopy, we were able to determine that the protein structures had different optical characteristics when compared to the cytoplasm inside the cells. That comes from Alon Gorodetsky. He was speaking to New Atlas. Quote, in other words, they optically behaved almost as they do in their native cephalod leucophores. There you go. Yes, absolutely butchered, Scott. But don't worry about that. It's okay. It's okay. The squid. Just a squid. Stop showing off with your big words. Squid, man. Pretty cool, right? Weird.
I think this is probably another example of
too much time on their hands.
No, them rolling it out to the public when they've probably been doing this for a long time.
I would imagine, you know what I mean? Since I would probably think even before they'd cracked the genome, they were probably doing a bit of cutting and pasting. And can you imagine some of the monstrosities that might have been like? We often think that science experiments and things. You think back to Victorian times. It's pretty gruesome, some of the things we went through there, but you have to appreciate we would never be where we are today with modern medicine. Does that make it right? No. But the point being, what's going on in laboratories that we don't know about today? What's going on in these deep underground bases and things, Scott, where there is no, ethics and morals and,
Exactly. That's the thing, they put out the perception to the public that, well, there's a certain level of ethics that we have to follow, and that, there's a certain lines that we don't cross, and that only those dirty chi-coms, they're the ones that don't have ethics, and they won't, they do these, crazy genetic experiments and stuff like that. But no, we do that too. We totally do that. And that's where all the black project stuff is. The money that can't be traced is going to those projects to where it's just out of the public eye, and there's no way for anybody to actually prove that it's going on.
Mengele, if you could bring Mengele back, he would probably go, "Whoa, I thought we lost. Hey, my science has kept going, man."
It's like multi-levels of plausible deniability and compartmentalization. And
remember the company in South Korea we talked about years ago now? They were in the cloning domestic pet business, but the guy was getting a bit miffed because he couldn't branch out and do humans because of laws in South Korea. But it was okay because China said, "It's all right, man. You can come here. We don't have such stringent rules and red tape. It's okay. Genetic manipulation, crack on."
Yeah, at least China's open about it.
Precisely, dude.
Say what you will, about of course they're a communist authoritarian regime, but at least they have the cojones to go, you know what? Yeah, we don't have no ethics when it comes to any of this stuff, you know, whereas here it's kind of hidden away and it's like, oh no, we don't do that. We don't cross that line when we totally are crossing that line.
Yeah, you just
we
get billionaire weirdo bankers with ranches out in New Mexico and islands down in the Virgin Islands, and you get a really weirdo banker like that nobody really likes anyway, and you get him as like your proxy. You get him to like have your human farm, Scott, you know, and it's hypothetical, you know.
What if the rake is like one of these guys who had his cells cross spliced with a cephalopod and it was running across the road?
Whoa, dude! I wasn't expecting the rake to come on the back of that. They were going to say, what if the rake was like kicking about at the ranch? I was going to say, what? He kicked about with the rake as well? Was the rake in his black book? Bang, dude! Let's have a look at the rake.
Hey.
That's a scary looking monster, man.
I had to go full woo on it, man. It's Freaky Friday.
I'm thinking this is, you know, Scott, we're taking these Freaky Fridays to new levels now. I've not seen that picture of a rake before. It's obviously a very fake one, but still. And for anyone who hasn't seen the rake before, don't think black-eyed child. Think really shiny-eyed, creepy thing. Bald, very bald.
How many times though? Like how many times do you think though that like something that they've created in a one of these underground facilities or these little black project areas, how many times do you think something has escaped?
Big time. Chupacabra. Chupacabra. I think Chupacabra comes into that. I remember the Montauk monster. Remember that thing that washed up off Montauk, and it was like, wow, what an abomination this was. You know,
it doesn't matter how secure you think you are, you know, like or your facility is. You know, Murphy's Law will kick in at some point. You know, whatever can go wrong will go wrong, and it's only a matter of time. And
well, let me ask you then, Scott. Do you think? And I'm not talking about blue chickens 20 and back, but do you think there's super soldiers out there that have had like some kind of genetic treatments? I think so.
Oh no. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think that's been going on for quite a while.
Yeah.
Like I think that genetic super soldier stuff is actually pretty old technology in the grand scheme of things, right? Right. So we talk about them being ahead by about 30 years conservatively.
Yeah. I've stopped putting a number on it 'cause it's hard, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, I've heard everything between 30 to 70 years, you know, that what do you want to call it? Breakaway. Breakaway.
Let's call them that. Yeah. I think that's the best way because you don't have to be off world to be the breakaway. You know, you can still be here.
Yeah, exactly. See, when we say breakaway civilization, you know, we're basically saying people that have access to the technology that has not been doled out to the population, to the general population yet. And so they're essentially a breakaway population, or you know,
they're the
breakaway
ones
civilization.
that got the ticket to the underground base if it all goes wrong. They're the ones, you know.
Yeah. See, once there's no more use militarily, or you know, for a technology to give them an advantage over something, you know, then they give it to the rest of the population, right? So, like encrypted communications, that was all military technology long before that was even given to the public, right? Even like stuff in World War II, you know, a lot of that military tech that was utilized by the military, you know, by armed forces in World War II, that was eventually repurposed for civilians after the war because there was no more use for it, and there was better technology that was found. But yeah, I think like the whole genetic super soldier thing that probably was going on a long time ago, you know, like I don't even want to put a time on it. Maybe as far back as World War II, you know. Definitely, I mean, definitely by the 70s, probably there was genetic manipulation going on, you know, super soldier programs and things like that. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if, say, the bad guys in World War II were dabbling with that kind
Oh,
of
big
stuff.
time. Yeah, I think so.
Because wasn't that the whole point of their, master race?
Yeah, to basically
genetic
streamline the
purity?
genetics to perfection in their mind.
So it might not have even involved, say, CRISPR type stuff, but them finding ways of cross splicing, breeding programs or anything like that. So, yeah, I
That's
think.
another weird thing. It used to be really conspiratorial to talk about the rat lines and the bad guys from World War II probably making their way through Italy, getting new papers off the Vatican, no less, and making their way over to South America for a new life. But I don't know when it all changed, Scott. But it's like that. Yeah, of course, that's fact now. It's not like even questioned anymore, You get to see the history documentaries. They follow the trail that Eichmann took. And you're thinking, well, this wasn't that long ago you used to get laughed at for saying Hitler never died in a bunker,
Yeah, it's pretty mainstream.
Very.
Mainstream now, the whole Argentina thing and all that.
Disclosure has already happened. We just missed it. We'll be back on the other side. Don't go anywhere unless the rake gets us. Do you think he went bald for BLM? We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Yes, I went there, Scott. I went there, but I'm going to shove on some tunes. I'm going to have myself a little herbal remedy, and then we'll be back.
It's nice.
And I think we might even open up the phones. Do you think? Will we? Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how we feel.
I don't know.
We've got lots. Yeah, we've got lots. We're on in the zone.
Track here. Yeah, we're in the zone.
We're in the zone, man. We're in the zone. Here we go, folks. We'll be back in a moment. Don't go anywhere. Don't get scared. Just the rake that you hear. Doesn't the Slender Man look awfully genetically modified now that I look at him? It does a little bit. But hey, tulpas, they can take many forms. And remember, folks, I'll be back tomorrow with Scotty and Jason, slightly earlier than today's show. And then on Sunday, we're going to go to Clava Cairns. We're going to take a look at some really cool drone footage that my brother's friend, big shout out to Kenny and Griggles. Yes, I called him Griggles. He'll probably hate that. But they've been filming the Magic Stone Circle with a new drone, Scotty. Yeah.
Ooh,
looking
nice.
rather nice, yes. The boy certainly has an eye for this. So I've already told him I want Loch Ness, I want Boleskine House. I want as much drone footage as we can get of the woo, man. Woo from above.
I realize that drone filming is an art.
Yeah,
art form.
definitely. Definitely. Do you remember used to be a guy we sometimes hung out with, Andrew. He was a soldier. Remember he used to come on sometimes? He used to do YouTube. He's now a drone pilot that does all that. He's going to give me some footage, he was telling me. But I was watching some of his stuff and very artistic. You know, some people have got it, some people don't. And
you gotta have a good eye for like the angle to come in with the drone, and you know, and to be able to know like which kind of direction to shoot, you know, shoot whatever you're filming in order to give it the most kind of impact and stuff. Yeah, you just don't just willy-nilly fly a drone over and film stuff. I mean, you can, but if you want it to look good, you got to have a good eye for that kind of stuff.
Big time. Big shout out to Donnie. Donnie, you take care, brother, and we'll talk again soon, my good friend. I'm looking forward to that. Here we go. We're going back to the network for the last and final time. Dun, dun, dun. Keep your mind. Why is that playing? Why is everything playing wrong? It's all going mad, Scott. We're back. It's the final segment. My brain isn't turning to black goo, or maybe it is. I tell you what, Scotty Lopez, this has been a quick one. That means it's been a good one. You enjoyed it?
Yes. Actually, that was Indigo Kev coming through. He's like, keep your mind open.
He's looking for the woo, but not to the point. Your brain goes to black goo. You know, and I've seen somebody in the chat room talking about the rake, and I think they might be onto something here. I do think the rake could be Nancy Pelosi running about the woods with her wig off. Could be. I'm just saying. And Kevin, Nacy, our brother, or my brother from another mother, yes, the Kevin squared, as we call it, when he comes onto the show. Check this out. Love how this guy's mind works. And we were talking about the bad guys in World War II for the break and hybridization. He says, you know, those bad guys, their hybridization program was more about changing the structural integrity of a human to be able to survive space travel, getting back to Mars, Marduk. The only thing I would add to that, Kev, is that for some reason, those bad guys in World War II had an utter fascination with Venus. That they had actually, that there was a thing about Venus. They had a thing about that, Scott. I remember seeing a book as well about, you know, it was in German, obviously, but the subject was going to Venus. And I don't know what the lore, what the kind of ancient woo they had found, but I suppose, isn't Venus and Mars at one point meant to have crashed together or something? Maybe something to do with that. I don't know, but they were wanting both of them.
You know, this ties back to the whole little saying, you know, men are for Mars, women are for Venus. You know, it's kind of, you know, kind of interesting. And I know a lot of focus is on Mars, but, you know, Venus is a very interesting place as well.
Very.
You know, and it makes you wonder, like, what was Venus like a long time ago? You know, what were its dynamics as far as atmospheric composition and
I think
and all
about
of
that
that
with Mars as well, Scott. There's part of me thinks it must have looked a bit.
I mean, you know, how many phases or iterations and different forms of you know, has Venus gone through? You know, was there a time maybe in its very infant stages where it maybe supported life at some point, and then something radical really changed, and now it's become a very you know, inhospitable place? I mean, the Russians managed to land a vehicle on it, and it took one picture before it was
Have you ever seen that
by...
conspiracy that, like, it's something on the ground? They say it was the lens cap. You ever seen that one?
No,
I'm gonna have to dig up a story on that. But it was a Russian lander, and it had taken a picture of something that was quite obviously artificial. They eventually wrote it off as being the lens cap that had fallen off or something. I'll need to dig up that story because I'm going off the top of my head, and it's either an Ancient Aliens or a history documentary. But I can see the picture of this thing in my mind's eye. But yeah, it does make you wonder, though, what our solar system would have looked like. Even what the night sky would have looked like from ancient times. And you look at that Thunderbolts project, and they do a really, really tremendous job. Not just with the whole electric universe and the science of that, but when they take you back in time, Scott, to that alien sky, and they show you what the plasma effects would be when the planets, like I say, it's an alien sky to what we're used to. But then you see the same patterns and shapes that plasma gives off between planets turning up on cave paintings. You know, so were they drawing what they were seeing in the sky? Probably.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there was a time in Earth's history where it was not hospitable to life on this planet, right? I mean, there were times when basically the entire surface of Earth was a molten, you know, it was just a molten lava, you know, and you know that millions and millions of years in the past. But say at that time, maybe Mars was more Earth-like and it could support life, and you know maybe their scientific, you know, minds or whatever that may have existed on then, you know, they're looking at Earth through a, you know, well, that place can't support life. Look, it's a molten, you know, lava ball basically, and because that's just how it was in the time that it existed.
Mm-hmm.
And then millions and millions of years later, Earth ended up becoming a planet that could support life. And well, look at Mars now. It's now a barren, desolate, you know, wasteland supposedly. You know, and we don't know for sure. I mean, what exists under the surface of Mars, we really don't know. And
dude, I've had a guy on the show telling me that he fought pterodactyls on Mars. Don't you ever forget that.
yeah, exactly. And so, you know, it's like the same with Venus, right? We look at Venus now and we're like, oh, it's basically an acid atmosphere with extremely high pressure that crushes everything and just like eats through everything. But maybe there was a time when it wasn't like that. You know, maybe there was a time when the sun was different. Maybe the sun wasn't as intense or whatever, and maybe Venus existed in what would be considered the Goldilocks zone at that time. You know, things change, and so it does make you wonder. You know, there are these kind of, you know, there's a lot of talk about Mars and Venus when it comes to stuff, and it just makes you wonder if it's kind of an old remnant memory of a time when both of those planets must have, you know,
well,
there
what
was
about
activity.
that other one as well? We've not talked about this in years, if at all, actually. But there's that whole kind of narrative, and there's a book out, old book now, but it's called The Ringmakers of Saturn. Literally, like, again, it goes to a completely different story when it comes to the solar system than what we've been told. And, you know, Saturn in occult circles, I mean, come on, the Saturn Alien Brotherhood, that's where you get your black robes from and all that stuff as well, and the judiciary, the ring, the wedding ring, the ring of Saturn. Yeah, that's all Jordan Maxwell stuff I remember from years ago, dude. But that whole kind of Saturn, the rings of it, the occultists put real kind of stock in that for whatever reason. Some say it was a second sun, the golden age of Kronos, things like that, you know. Weird, huh?
Yeah, and I know that you and Anthony Patch had a lot of discussion about Saturn.
Oh yeah, man. Some of the stuff I found out, like the ancients, the way they looked at it, and again, there's something of significance there is to this day, Scott.
And like I said, when it comes to like the occult and stuff, there's a lot of significance, you know, focused towards Saturn. And I remember I even brought to the table that the marker on the South Pole, I think last year, was Saturn.
That was a good few years ago now, Scott, honestly.
Was it?
Yeah,
was it,
yeah. I'm going to check the date of that because I know that was a good few years ago. Saturn, South Pole.
It was like 2018.
No, dude. No. What was
Type
it?
in
Like
Saturn marker.
Yeah, Saturn marker. No, dude, this is like, you're going to be shocked here. 2016.
Oh my God. Wow.
I knew that was years ago, dude. I knew it was years ago. Yep. Saturn. So that's the South Polar Vortex. That's not what we're talking about. No, 2016. Here we go. ceremonial
Yeah.
pole marker. Yep. There it is.
There it is. Yeah.
Yep. 2016,
Wow,
my
that's
man.
quite cute. I don't know why I was thinking last year.
And that's
Jesus,
when
no.
that was when all of the high level kind of you had the head of the Russian Orthodox Church going down there. You had John Kerry, the rubbery faced American politician, took time out. You know, wasn't that like an election year, 2016 campaign year? You know, wasn't it? Pretty much. Now, well,
Yeah.
I remember when he went down, there was something on, Scott. So he might have gone down in 2015. You had Buzz Aldrin going down. He got carried out. Remember?
Yeah, because that was around the time when you and Patch were really
Yep.
talking about a lot of the Saturn stuff, and that's why it blew my mind when I found that, because you guys hadn't seen that, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
there
okay,
it
I got to
is.
bring this.
Buzz
I was like, I
Aldrin.
got to bring this to the table because now
2016.
we're talking about. Mm-hmm.
Buzz. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not wanting to buy it. Go away. But Buzz was 2016, man. If I can get back to it. Come on,
It's like,
stop it.
you
It's in a.
know,
It's in the
subscribe.
loop. Oh,
Washington
come on, Buzz. There we go. No, I don't want a YouTube video either. Snow. There we go. The Guardian. Astronaut Buzz Aldrin recovering well after falling ill at the South Pole. 3 years old. December 1st, 2016.
Wow.
Oh, wow. How time flies, man.
I know. It's like feels like a time slip or something.
Yeah. I was watching Anthony not long ago, actually. Maybe last week. Talking about, I think it was the D-Wave, the quantum computers, and working on DNA. It kind of fits with what we were talking about with the super soldiers and hybridizations and things like that. Because we often laugh, me and you, Scott, about the junk DNA. In our words, they can't make sense of it. It's not junk. It's obviously for something, right? But I'm quite confident that with quantum computing, I think more of that junk will become relevant, to be honest with you. We'll start to unlock more secrets.
Yeah, so you remember that story that we covered last week where those guys, they uncovered that pattern of 37 in the genome or whatever. Well, man, I mean, think about when you start throwing that problem at artificial intelligence and tell it to start looking for patterns in the junk DNA, and then it's going to be able to decode a lot of the stuff that just our minds couldn't,
and even further from that, Scott, as opposed to like taking a test tube and mixing bits and seeing what will come and whether it works or not. I mean, they can literally model all the different folds and the proteins and like we used to talk with Anthony, in silico, they can basically run like 1,000 different iterations, combinations of DNA, and it will bring it'll either pass, yep, it's viable, or not. And think of the amount of things that lie in wait, and I genuinely am excited, because you think of the medicines, you think of the real good stuff. We've got to try and get away from looking at everything so negatively. We have to, take advantage of these technologies, as opposed to just sticking our head between our legs and almost being defeatist and thinking, ooga booga the dark side. Yeah, the ooga booga the dark side's there, but are we going to put up a fight? Are we just going to sit back and wait for the ooga booga bad stuff? Or do we take this exciting stuff, Scott, and we'll make a go of it,
Well, that's the thing. Well, first of all, I mean, you're not going to stop the technology from coming to. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you might as well try and make the best of it, and all of that, and it's just with everything, it's a double-edged sword. There's the beneficial and the good that can come from it, and then there's the ways that it can be misused, and used for nefarious purposes, and the bad aspects of it. like you said, Kev, I mean, we have to look at both sides of it. I mean, when it comes to this stuff, yeah, I mean, if you were to throw AI at this whole, decoding the genome and all of that stuff, we could probably like cure cancer and stuff like that. You know what I mean? You just cut that part of the DNA out that would give you a higher chance of getting cancer, or just cut it out altogether, and now we don't have to worry about cell mutation anymore.
And I used to say, well, what does the knock-on effect from that, Scott? In silico, play it out on the computer, model it, see what knock-on effects it has over generations. You don't have to wait 70 years. You can do it. Just press a button.
Yeah, run the simulation and see how it plays out, essentially, and see how that change in genetics would affect each generation over time, and if it has a negative effect over time, then they go, well, maybe we shouldn't do this, but if they can see that, okay, there's not a problem over a generational period, generation after generation after generation, then maybe it could be something that they can utilize. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm with you.
Sorry, I got a message from Geordie there. He's like, last, Kev, you finally get it. Yes, this show was brought to you in conjunction with D-Wave Systems. I'm only joking. That'll be in a soundbite somewhere, won't it? You know it. Oh, the Ooga Booga Baker's a bad one. He's a wrong one. Where are we going now, Scotty? We've got like 10 minutes left. This has been awesome, dude.
We really hit a lot of interesting stuff.
You want some Mayan woo? A little bit of Mayan woo before we go?
Yeah, we haven't visited the Mayans in a while. The whole 2012 thing. You know what? I think maybe they got the calendar wrong.
I think
maybe
so,
they were
dude.
About 2020.
Yeah, there's probably Mayans sitting somewhere laughing right now, blatantly saying, we didn't say 2012, you daft. We were the ones that put 2012 on it, right? They were just probably talking about a window of time. They didn't bat about with Gregorian calendar systems and leap years here and 30 days this month, 31 the next month. The Mayans had it down, Sky.
Tomorrow there's going to be some guy going over the Mayan calendar, and he's like, oh, I forgot to kind of brush this dust off the side here. Oh, okay.
I like that in the chat room, Lewis. Anthony Patch is Jean-Luc Picard. He does have a bit of the Jean-Luc Picard. People might think that me and Anthony don't get on or anything. I still absolutely love Anthony Patch, and I can never thank him enough for all that he's taught me. And who knows, we might do a show again in the future. We went different ways, different paths, but I think we're still pretty much focused on similar stuff. So, yeah, it's no drama,
No, the thing is that he kind of had his direction he wanted to go and his topics that he really wanted to hammer, and focus on.
Yeah, which he's good at,
Yeah, exactly, and I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he probably needed his own platform to really dig into a lot of the stuff, because, when you guys would cover stuff, it just, there wasn't really enough time to really dig into a lot of that. And Anthony just basically needed a platform of his own to just totally focus on it. And so, yeah, it's not drama or anything like that, or
And the people out there, if you're looking for him, Anthony Patch on YouTube. He does very long live streams. Like Scott's saying, he's now afforded the time to get into all that good stuff. So, still highly recommend people go there. But you're going to like this, Scott, right? Because I imagine this is going to touch on the LiDAR that's now being used to really peel back years and show us, structures that have been on the ground from way, way, way gone by. And in many cases, like the Amazon, it's hard to see through that tree canopy. And I get it when we deforestation and that, we sometimes uncover old settlements, but the whole world is starting to take on a very different feel, Scotty, because we're now getting to look at some of the cycles and some of the stuff. Because here is the oldest and largest mine structure discovered. Researchers have identified a gigantic Mayan ceremonial platform in Mexico dating back 3,000 years. And the 50-foot high platform, which is located near the San Pedro River in Mexico's Tabasco state, stretches for over a mile, making it one of the most significant Mayan structures ever discovered. It was found using technology known as LIDAR, light detection and ranging. Folks, it's no different from radar. It only uses light instead of radio, right? And it says which involves firing lasers from an aircraft to build up a picture of what lies beneath dense jungle foliage. And according to Arizona archaeologist Takeshi Inomata, who led the discovery, the platform would have most likely been used to construct large-scale ceremonies and gatherings. But Scott, one of the things that I'd found in one of these articles was that what they're discovering is that as opposed to some of the sites where we have that very elite kind of priest class and everyone else, some of the sites appear to be more egalitarian, where it was like a kind of commune. There wasn't any set leader. It was more community type based villages, setups. You would need to read into it deeper. There was a big article in, I think it was the Daily Mail. But it's kind of giving them different ways of looking at different times throughout the Mayan period, you know? Kind of cool.
Or let's go woo here. What if there were structures that were built before the Star People arrived?
Yeah, could well be, dude. Absolutely. It says here, I mean, oh, hang on, I've got the wrong bit now. It says, according to, yeah, I've got that bit. The really interesting implication is what this site tells us about potential human collaboration, which can do really amazing things without the presence of a centralized government. Low res. We should maybe
take that.
Yeah, we can take a leaf out of their book.
Yeah, the libertarian anarcho-capitalist side of me is feels nice and warm and fuzzy whenever.
Like that. I like the egalitarian kind of ideals. It says it must be for rituals or ceremonies. It's a big, wide space, so it's a place for gathering of people. There it is. However, it wasn't until high resolution. No, that's not it. Yeah, but the story I read was far more in depth, but pretty cool, huh?
Very, very interesting.
You would think we've uncovered most of what there is to uncover in 2020.
Like I said, what if that was before their elongated skull overlords arrived?
Could well be, dude. Could very well be. Let's face it, the chances are, if we were going to send things to a planet, we'd have the AI flying. But in all likelihood, it'd probably be robots and Terminators and Skyborg that gets off. Don't think it's going to be much different when they send things here, folks. Get ready, I'm telling you. It'll be like Atlas robot, Boston Dynamics, or only it'd be Andromeda Dynamics or something. I don't know. Something weird like that. Nordic Dynamics. If the Nordics get off, Scott, I don't care what technologies they've got, man. We're in.
Nordic Dynamics. That's hilarious.
Nordic Dynamics, my friend. Yes.
If they built a robot that looked that good, then.
You mean if they built one that looked just like AOC? Oh.
Oh no.
Oh wow, man. Oh dang, dude.
Yeah.
Take me to your leader. Take me. God, I'm yours, man.
I thought I see that.
It's not Wayne Denny. No, it's not Wayne Denny at all, Scott. No.
I was wondering if the lust, the AOC lust, had waned any, but apparently.
I think I've got a thing for woke women. It's that opposites attract, you know. It's you know. I think I can. There's a part of me thinks I can save them, but they want to be toxic again. That's what it is.
Yeah. So it's like you're attracted towards you're attracted to damaged women that you feel like you need to.
Scott, if you knew my life, you wouldn't know how accurate that statement was. Honestly, man, that's uncanny. It's like you've known me forever.
There we go.
Not a shoe in sight. Brilliant. But nah, I tell you, Scott, we can only have a story about that one day off air. But folks, Mammoth, what's wrong with AOC? Come on, you know? What can I say? But anyway, that, folks, is about all.
It's okay, Mammoth, because before AOC, Kev had an unhealthy lust for Sarah Palin.
Oh, I've got another one. There's one in the UK now. Pretty Patel, and she is pretty. Oh, she's big brother. She's big sister, dude.
At least Kev isn't playing the left-right paradigm. He just looks for crazy on all sides.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I'll go left, I'll go right. I swing both ways when it comes to left or right, Scotty. Yes, indeedy. And on that note, Brent Thomas is on the way. We're out of here. How the heck did we end up getting into my rather boisterous perversions before the end of the show there? What's going on?
You're the one that brought up AOC, not me.
I know. My bad. I will go and I will, you know what I'm going to go and do? I'll go and make myself watch 5 of her speeches now, because that'll be really, really bad.
Ooh, man, that's rough.
Oh,
that is
dude,
rough.
she's got it all up there, man. She's got it all going on. Don't ask her to work like the garbage disposal unit, anything like that. All up there, Scotty. But we'll be back tomorrow. Yes, indeed. It'll be little people tomorrow. Not AOC, but genuinely little people. And Jason's going to be coming on. I hope Scotty can make it. And it might sound a bit bizarre, a bit weird, but think of the shows we've done with Max about the Germanic and the Nordic lore. And from what Jason has told me, this is going to be right up there with that. Because, like I say, we're also going to be getting into literally the real Lord of the Rings. You don't think that's all like make-believe, do you? Do you? You thought that was just made up in Tolkien's mind? We're going to take you to the scene of the crime tomorrow, and we're going to show you what inspired the Lord of the Rings.
Exactly, and don't get our buddy Joe Joseph going on the Lord of the Rings, because he's totally down for the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, he's the one that told me, Kev, it is Lord of the Rings that we live in. Or was he just being cheeky because I'm the size of a hobbit? We'll need to get a hold of him and check that one out. But folks, again, thank you all for being here. It wouldn't be worth it. We wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for all of you. DJ Bison, we had Leslie as well. Thank you so much for your support. And we'll be back tomorrow. I might even be on earlier on in the UK daytime. Now, I know for Americans that might not be too cool, but we've got a lot of Australian viewers and listeners, and I love the kind of rapport that we've got going on there. And Australia, it turns out, even with everything we've spoken about, the bunyip, that springs to mind. Dude, Scotty, there is like so much woo down there that has been untapped that we haven't even scratched the surface of yet. So maybe 2 streams tomorrow. I'll definitely be back with the guys for the main game in town. 11 p.m. in the UK, 6 p.m. on the East Coast, 5 p.m. where Scotty is. And yes, he is still in Kansas. That's right. And then that'll be 3 p.m. 3 p.m. on the West Coast. So I hope you can all be here for our Pixies. No, Piskies. Not Pixies. Piskies. Tommy Knockers. And the real Lord of the Rings. How does that sound, Scotty?
And before we go, we had 2 nights in a row where we had like really bad storms come in at around 2, 3 in the morning. And both, it was last night and the night before, and every time I couldn't get out of my head the video, the screaming, and I was wondering, I was like, man, if I start hearing some screaming,
On a show on that the other night. What if, Scott? What if? Now, there was also the hashtag Philly explosions. There was like night-long explosions going off that people were hearing in Philadelphia. And somebody on that same thread posted, has anyone ever heard of Operation, what was the name of it again? Wandering Soul. Scott, you remember Operation Wandering Soul, right? That was that thing that Andy put us onto about the psychological warfare from Vietnam. And I didn't say that the screaming noise that we heard, like the wailing banshee thing. I'm not saying that that's Operation Wandering Soul, but I'm asking you to think about what if it could be something like that, because the explosions that were going off in Philly, it was people that are mainstream, Scott, not conspiracy theorists. They were saying this is psychological operations that are underway here. It sounded like a war zone.
Was it going on during all the unrest that was going on in Philly?
And then the story said that they had like 10 ATMs had got attacked. But dude, there was like 10 explosions you heard in 1 minute clip, and people were saying this is going on all night, And it was like, it was boom, boom, boom. It sounded like shelling in the distance, man. That's what it sounded like.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if some, psychological warfare tactics
absolutely not,
to try and like freak the crowds out, scare, and get them to disperse or something like that. I don't know.
You need to check it out, dude. You'll need to check it. But like I say, even mainstream people were going, nah, that's just like some weird psyop stuff we're getting at with here, People, you could hear kids waking up crying in the video because of the noise. It was like multiple people coming out and going, what's going on,
Very interesting.
Very. Right, folks? We are out of here and hope you all get a good sleep tonight. Big shout out to all of our Aussie listeners down under. Hope you have a nice day down there. Shoving our shrimp on the Barbie mammoth. I will be down for it. Well, if I was to leave now, probably get there by 2021. Hopefully that'll be a better year, but we'll never know. You just never know. Will I be in Australia? Will I go to Göbekli Tepe? Will I just be staying in Glasgow? Probably just for Glasgow. But until next time, folks, keep it real. And now I can play my black goo woo. Keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. Now, Logos, if I haven't watched the Game of Thrones, you need to. Serious predictive programming in that series. Did you watch the last series of that, Logos? Predictive programming? What, the dragon's coming back? I'm winding you up, Logos. I'm winding you up. But no, I watched Game of Thrones. I loved it, dude. Absolutely loved it. But just a guy. Good to see you here, brother. Hope you're doing well. And we'll be back tomorrow. Slightly earlier time. Definitely the same place. Me, Scott, Jason, and a whole heap of little people. Imagine that, Scott. Imagine these non-believers thinking I wasn't in the Game of Thrones. Look at that. I was the half man. Come on, dude. That's like epic. I could be a lookalike for that little short dude.
That's a classic Photoshop that looks disturbingly accurate.
Disturbingly. We're out of here, folks. I'm away to fire up my dragon. Good night. God bless. And keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo.